even know my story.
He's like, oh shit, Matt never existed.
Start
He's a
realising.
government conspiracy.
I think we're in frame there. It looks kind of good. Maybe bring your chair in a bit.
I'm there. Say hi. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
How does that look to you, Chris?
Mm.
Yeah, I think that's good. I think this, like, if that battery doesn't die, it's gonna actually be some pretty good quality film because that camera actually shows some good video. Hello, welcome to episode 19 of the Thought Anthology podcast. We've got you've been on before.
I have been on before.
A returning guest,
Yes.
Jake, my brother, and with me, my co-host Chris.
Occasional co-host.
Occasional
So
co-host Chris.
far, I've been on every episode.
Until Callan comes on, which he won't because he's in Melbourne. On this episode, basically, Chris wanted to meet Jake, and I said, sure, I'll try to organise that, and that's basically the beginning because he found out that you're a psychic and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Psycho.
I got-
Psycho.
Yeah. Huh?
That
Yeah,
too.
so I've got like a million questions.
You're going to be
Yeah, we wanted to talk about spirituality in this
Yeah.
podcast.
Yeah. So, do you want to start by just, like, introducing what you do, or...?
Yeah, that was like my first question.
Well,
What is it
I
that-
go by the title the Australian Warlock. Warlock being attached to the earth-based spirituality that I practice, witchcraft, which goes under it's an umbrella term, so there's many different ways to perceive it. But I'm also a psychic intuitive with the ability to also communicate with spirits and such like that. So yeah. That's me.
So how do you end up with those kind of abilities? Is that something that you always had, or like we're talking about with you guys growing up? Like,
Yeah.
was that something that you always felt was different about?
Well,
you,
I've always been a sensitive. Well, ever since I was 8 years old, being aware of my own emotions and feelings and all that sort of thing. I've always been a sensitive kid.
Yeah.
Whether I acknowledge that as intuitive. Mum always said that I used to see spirits, but I don't remember seeing spirits when I was younger. But I've always had that sort of knowing. Like I'd walk into groups of people and I could feel the environment, feel people, situations. Not just like I was an emotionally sensitive kid as well, but there was also that added sensitivity to it. It wasn't until the age of 12 that I had 3 different other psychics tell me that I had a gift, which I did acknowledge. One also mentioned that I would be very good at using the tarot, which is the cards, the 78 card deck.
So sorry to stop you there, but like what is tarot card reading? So like what are you doing with?
So tarot is basically like any other tool. It's a tool used to help to access our psychic gifts. There's different tools that psychic uses, from runes to crystal balls. Palmistry is another tool. Each one has its own fundamentals and structure. Concerning the tarot is sort of built in a structure that sort of facilitates our life, mind, body, spirit, major events, minor events. And we utilise the cards, I utilise the cards to help sort of access deeper knowledge and understanding.
Of the person.
Yeah.
So like, is it like a personality reading type thing, or?
What do you mean by personality?
So like when you're using the tarot cards, what are you reading in particular about like the person?
Well,
as
a psychic, we're in tune with the energies that surround us, the feelings, sensations, and all that sort of thing. So if I sit here and I was to tune into everyone's energy, I can feel different responses that get in touch with my own energy. So basically, the cards themselves are a tool to read and tap into energy. And so depending on the person that I'm reading for, their energy will mix with the cards, and the correct cards, or maybe ones that are drawn to them, will come out and correspond to that. And then I can further tune into the energy and make sense of it as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, there's many layers to tarot. Like, it's not just like You know, you can explore the archetypes. You can do, you know, I recently did a course on tarot therapy, which is using the tarot in conjunction with therapeutic techniques. So we use the tarot to delve into the subconscious, which originally that's what the tarot was meant for. The most popular tarot that we see advertised is by A.E. Waite and Pamela Coleman Smiths. That deck was intended to not sort of be a fortune-telling device, but more so a tool for self-discovery and enlightenment. Because both members that created this deck were a member of the Golden Dawn, which was a secret society back in the 1900s. So, yeah, and a lot of the cards have deep symbolism in them. That, you know, when laid out, help us when we look at the images. They access something within us, a deeper knowledge and understanding.
There's actually something to do with Jake's a real scholar of this stuff. Like, he's read heaps of books.
Yeah, because I was just about to ask, like, how do you learn to do something? Do you have to get like essentially a psychic sensei type?
With the tarot,
psychic sensei.
No, I'm being serious. Like, you have to find.
Well, with the tarot, you don't have to be psychic to read the tarot. You don't have to be in tune. But I believe everyone's generally psychic. I mean, we all have intuition. We always feel it. I mean, people always talk about, you know, subtle sensations and, you know, like people may like, you know, reading body language. That's one of the things that psychologists would say, that we sit there and we're very attuned to being able to read someone's. I mean, I'm always attuned to reading people anyway, but I acknowledge the difference between energy and I notice the way someone's body language, because I've tried to cold read and I fail at it, because if I'm not tuning in on an energetic level, I'm bad wrong, because someone might be, you know, displaying a certain way, but I may not be correct. You know, I'm just judging based on what I'm reading. But I think it all kind of falls hand in hand, and I think it just comes down to self-awareness and being attuned, you know? So, yeah. Does that make sense? I don't know if that... Yeah. So, yeah, like, you know, the tarot, like I said, it's just a tool, and that's one of the things that I use to help me access my own abilities.
So what are the other stuff that you do? Because you sent me a link to your Facebook page, and I had a look at some of that stuff. And as opposed to, like, you know, I grew up going to a Christian school, I was kind of like, I don't 100% understand what all of this side of spirituality is. And
absolutely. So I come from the mindset that I have no barriers to spirituality. Like, I don't see my way as the only way. When it comes to spirituality, I see as, you know, in the concept of God, not so much a man that sits in the clouds and judges people. Yeah. He can be if you want him to be, but it's more of an infinite. So, you know, there's multifacets to the universe that we may not comprehend. But everyone has their own truth. So what you're seeing on my page is how I choose to embrace spirituality and what speaks true to me. So you'll see on my page there's a big focus on my readings, but also my practice as a warlock, which is essentially a male witch, and witchcraft being an earth-based spirituality. That is essentially a craft, you know. Yeah. But you will find that there are each witch or practitioner that you meet has a different perspective on spirituality, and that's sort of what witchcraft is. It's a current that people tap into. It's an old thing. Not that we believe that there is this, you know, one, you know, source of witchcraft that ever was. You know, it's changed, it's adapted, it's flowed, you know, and a lot of us take elements from different spiritualities and stuff. So, yeah, but, you know, I practice ritual, you know, I create my own spells, incantations, I perform house blessings, which is similar to creating the rituals. I'm a Reiki practitioner, which is a form of energetic healing. What else? All different facets to what I do. So, yeah.
So we were talking about ghost hunting.
Yeah.
So, have you ever done like something like that?
Have I ever done ghost hunting before? Yeah,
And
I have.
talking to spirits, and so you tap into like essentially what some would refer to as like the next dimension.
The next dimension or next spirit, yeah.
Yeah.
So I like to consider myself a skeptic. I think you have to be in terms of when you approach spirituality. Well, I think it's healthy to be skeptical. So in terms of when I tap into the energy, I can only speak from experience.
Yeah.
So in terms of communicating with spirits, so there's a lot of stigma and a lot of misinformation when it comes to psychics and spiritual people. Like what we see in the media and what we see in movies, if people aren't taking the initiative to actually go and ask questions or go and read, they already have this sort of preconceived idea of what that is, and I find that in day to day, and each psychic or practitioner that you go to is different. I don't identify as a medium, but I do have that ability because I believe being a medium is the ability to commune with spirits, and that's a really big title. Even though I've been able to do that, and I do have that ability, I don't believe in calling myself a medium. Well, maybe not yet, because I feel like it's like this. It takes a lot of responsibility to be able to claim to connect with people on the other side. Sorry, I'm going on a tangent.
No,
but I will get to the point. So in terms of like when I first started to tap into my intuition, the cards were essentially a tool to help me develop that. And I always tell people that it started by, I would just have this, what we call clairsentience, which is inner knowing. And if people want to go and further read about the different clairs, which are the different psychic abilities, you'll understand what I'm talking about there. But most people have a general mixture. Anyone that claims to be psychic or spiritual has a mixture of these clairs. I have that clairsentience, which is the first one, which is an inner knowing. So in combination with using the cards, I could read the cards, know the meaning, but then I'd have an intuition that would further develop on that. Okay. And so the more I listened to those intuitive feelings, the more it began to develop. And the more I sort of almost started to open up, and then I would hear these voices and these feelings. My clairvoyance, which is clear seeing, would develop more. I've always had flashes or visions. I remember getting into the car and just looking at the neighbour's yard and going, theft. Something just popped into my head, like this voice said theft. And then it actually turned out that the previous night they'd actually had some intruders in their yard, without me knowing. So something spoke to me. And I also have that ability to like look at someone and just pick, like it hits you. It's like I said, when I talk about energy, it's almost like our currents. It's sort of like that wave hits me and I'm able to able to interpret the energy that comes to me. So when it comes to communing with spirits, the way I do that is that it's almost like, say, if there's a spirit present, their energy will step forward. I will feel that in my what we call the aura, and I will be able to sort of interpret what they're trying to communicate with me. Very much through my body. I'm very empathic, which means I feel. Like I said, as a kid, I've always been very sensitive. So my emotions, they would transfer that into me. Not so much like possession, but more so like, okay, if they were a very macho person, I would feel that in their body, like in the way they hold themselves. And it would be almost like I was meeting them for the first time, and that's how I'd interpret it. Yeah, so when it comes to communing with spirit, that's how I do it. So, yeah.
So like a receptor for the energy.
Yeah, basically, yeah. So it's like, right now we're sitting here, like you could, everything, like I can feel my brother's energy in this space, compared to going to different places, and I can read his energy.
Well, this is an ADHD space.
Like, it's like, oh my God, So like, because I know my brother's just like heads, I know what my brother's like, but I can feel his like go energy. So if I walk into a place, especially if I get invited to do house cleansings, I can walk into a room and pick up on the person's energy, all that sort of thing. So does that kind of answer your question? Yeah. So it's kind of just like I said, speak from experience. So that's sort of how I...
What makes you like really genuine too is that you're actually skeptical of your own practice as well, which I think is probably the best way you can approach it.
Absolutely. And I think that's important. Like I really think and I do that. Sometimes I'm like, I have to second guess, like I'll see things and then I second guess it and I go, oh, you know, I have to, I go through my brain. I'm like, was that a light? Was that me? And then I can sort of decipher what's there. I just sort of, I can see the light there, but I also saw like a current of light just shift through there. So even though there's a light there, I could see. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So when you talk about rituals.
Yeah.
So what type of rituals have you done in the past? And like what would you use the rituals for?
So when we talk about ritual, we all do, as humans, ritual is a part of our life. It doesn't have to be spiritual. We get up, have a shower, have our coffee. We do that on repeat. That's ritual. As a practitioner of magic, which is the manipulation of natural energies, ritual is used within my practice to honour the old gods, sometimes the new one as well, depending on circumstances. You know, to affect changes, you know, say for instance when I was in high school I used it to banish bullies, or say to bring money into my life, or just generally to do, like, because I believe that magic can also be used to help sort of, you know, work through things, say emotional trauma, and, you know, helping you cope with certain situations. So for instance, if I was going through a bit of a traumatic time, I would practice a lot of meditation. I do a lot of breathing exercises, but I'd also do a lot of rituals to release and to banish unwanted feelings and sensations and all that sort of thing. But process first before letting go. So that's kind of where my sort of ritual sort of aspect comes in. So like, you know, say for instance, it can be as, I'm a sucker for ritual. I mean, you don't need a lot to do ritual, but I love to be elaborate, you know, and there's many different forms of ritual, and every witch, every pagan, every practitioner has their own way of doing it. But, you know, it could be as simple as lighting a candle. So if I wanted to banish something unwanted, I'd light a black candle. If I wanted to bring prosperity, I would light a green candle. You know, if I wanted to, I don't know, if I wanted to banish someone, I would sprinkle something in their shoe without them knowing. You know, if I wanted to get rid of someone. So yeah. But that's kind of how
season the shoes.
Season the shoes.
Check my shoes before I leave. Make sure that there's no razzle dazzle in the soles, or
well, that's why people. I mean, like, people have this, like, it's so funny because I must come across as this someone that just, like, I've had people accuse me of putting curses and stuff on them, but that's their own paranoia. I believe in, like, in terms of practicing ritual, there are foundations, and it depends on your ethics when it approached. Like, there's a lot of people believe in the law of karma, and what a lot of what Wiccans, which is a nature-based religion similar to witchcraft, would say that they believe in threefold law. Whatever you put out returns to you. I do believe that to an extent, but I'm more from the belief that you know, if someone's going to throw a punch at me or hurt someone I love, what are you going to do? You're going to do something to defend them. So that's my way of seeing it. You step into a spider's web, you threaten the spider. What's the spider going to do? Bite you. And that's exactly how I like to approach it. Step into my territory. You step into, you know, I'll be kind to it to a point, but if you're going to disrespect me, done. Yeah. So. But I'm not that nasty, but you know what I mean. That's sort of how I kind of see it. So that's because, like, I mean, when it comes to, like, the law of karma and things like that, like, well, karma is not necessarily how we modern people see it. It's more of like a learning experience. So, you know, what you do, you'll have to learn it future on if you don't learn it now. But yeah, I think when it comes to ritual, there is a system and protocol to be followed in whatever way you choose to express that. But yeah, when it comes to, you know, protection, magic and defensive and all that sort of thing, I will do something to protect myself and those that I love. And that's something that I've had to really go within myself and explore that concept as well, because I feel like, you know, even though our society claims not to be Christian, Christianity has very much influenced a lot of our beliefs and our perceptions, believe it or not. Even in modern spirituality, you will find that even though people claim to not be Christian, a lot of their values stem from a Christian viewpoint. So like I like to sort of step away from that and go, okay, what do I like about this? What can I use from this? You know, how do I want to view my reality? You know, not sort of being controlled by different opinions and views. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Or am I just...
100%.
Yeah, good.
Yeah. I think it's good to always approach anything in life sort of skeptical about a lot of things and try and make your own mind up about what you have seen.
Absolutely.
What you know, rather than walking into what someone's told you should know.
Well, I often mention this, like there's, I don't know if you've heard of the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey.
No.
He created the Church of Satan, and that was back in, I think it was like the 70s, 80s.
Right.
And basically, he was a very interesting man. And I like I said, people would pick up the Satanic Bible, but because of their generalized fears and preconceptions of what Satan is, they wouldn't touch it because there's this fear. But if you actually sit down and read this book, you will find that these Satanists don't actually believe in an actual devil. Satan is more of a concept. Okay, so back when he was creating this, the Church of Satan, and he created the Satanic Bible, it was kind of almost like to oppose the beliefs of the time, you know, to break people away from, you know, things like concepts that were kind of outdated, and he wanted to challenge that, and that's kind of what he was a very cunning man, don't get me wrong, and I think there was a lot more going on there. But what I'm trying to say is that, you know, I think it's good, and his belief actually sort of challenges the overall beliefs of the time, and I think that's why I think it's so good to challenge. So, you know, even though I don't call myself a Satanist, I've read these texts and I'm going, this man kind of had a point. You know, he did challenge these concepts, which I think is really good.
So what are some of the beliefs of the Satanists?
Satanists?
Like, when people talk about like Satanists, they tend to talk about evil people.
Yeah, all right.
Like
so
the Jeffrey Dahmers.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah. So again, you know, you get your weirdos and you get your intellectuals, right? Yep. So, and like I said, everyone's going to view it differently. So, from my perspective, what Satanists were back in Anton LaVey's day, they were people that would basically, from my own knowledge, a Satanist is someone that embraces the fact that they're human, you know, and that we have carnal desires, and that's okay. That we're not some, you know, wretched thing that, you know, exists on this earth that must follow and obey a god. You know what I mean? Yeah. We are our own god. That's the words of a Satanist, you know. I may have that wrong, but that's how I've interpreted it, you know. Basically, you know, things like, you know, God, we get jealous, that's okay. You know, it's not a sin, you know. We're human. Basically, it's embracing the carnal desires and lusts of being a human and allowing that to be expressed without guilt or shame. Which in those times back then, obviously, you know, you couldn't do certain things, and you know,
which that's probably a good example of like old paganism too, because they're pretty similar, like embracing the human side of like.
Yeah, well, they did what they felt was right there, because I've often thought about, you know, how society, especially like in ancient Greece, like they had very strict rules even back then. So it's no different to how modern like Catholicism is, how it's so strict and how it's, you know, you have certain things. Back then, that's what they were like. You know, like the Vestal Virgins of the goddess Hestia, if they broke the laws, they were buried alive. You know, like that's, but there's a lot of people that like when they talk about paganism stuff, they like to be all light and fluffy and like, oh, you know, we worship nature and all this sort of stuff. And, you know, the Christians, and the Christians come through and they just, you know, destroyed us and burned us. I'm like, fuck off. You used to make human candles out of Christians. You know what I mean? Like, there's a light and a dark to everything. So there's no good and bad no ultimate good and no ultimate bad in my books. So yeah, so I like to see both sides and I like to sort of toss that around. Yeah. Don't get me wrong, there's some awesome beliefs back then. I mean, like the concept of having the old gods, but I often kind of think that, Christianity actually served a purpose. Otherwise, we would still be sacrificing goats on our tables and stuff. But again, we sacrifice, if we eat meat, we are constantly having animals sacrificed to us on a day-to-day basis. It's just all perception. It's all how you choose to see it and believe it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I was going to ask everyone to sort of talk about what their definition of spirituality was, but I think we've already gotten a lot about yours. I think me and Matt briefly touched about it, if Matt wants to
talk about it.
Yeah, if you want to open up about your feelings and emotions for 5 seconds, it's okay, Matt.
If I have any. Perceptions of spirituality. I've already talked about what my perceptions are, because because with spirituality, it's one of those things where it can fall. It's a very fine line between being spiritual and being mentally ill or well as well.
Yeah.
But how would I describe spirituality? I think ultimately I can see people are all trying to express the same thing, but in different ways, like you were saying.
Absolutely.
So in regards to spirituality, I try to approach it from that scientific basis, and you get and because there comes to a point with science where you can't really explain the why, because that's not really a scientific question. Science is more of the how things function.
Yeah.
So the only way that I can see spirituality in essentially existence, which is what spirituality is actually working with existence. You're existing in some form, and and we're trying to discern if there is or is not a reason.
Yeah.
And yet we have these sensations, we have these experiences that we've defined them as this, and so when it comes to spirituality, I tend to see it as that. The closest thing I can get to something spiritual from my perceptions is that we're all just a product of the same thing. As in you and I, Chris and I, you and me are essentially the same thing, just expressed in a different way.
Absolutely.
So so that's how I tend to see it, is that we're all just the universe expressing itself. That's all I can explain it as, and I feel that feels more appropriate for me to describe, and probably the best way I can probably approach it. So I'm no different from the man next door, because ultimately we've had no choice in the same life. We both exist for some reason that is most likely random. So why should I see myself different from them?
Absolutely.
And that means I feel, you feel more connected that way to people and things. Yeah.
And like I was saying before, that our existence is far more complicated and far more intricate than just, the narrow set of someone's beliefs.
Yeah.
You cannot, put a box on the infinite, because that is confining the infinite, and then it doesn't. But from the beginning, humans have needed to confine divinity or spirituality in a way that they could comprehend. Yeah. But that is only one aspect of the divine.
I think that's why they always look at, God is just a big man in the sky, or, the gods of the Greek gods, or, whatever, they're always people. I think that's because I don't think that the god or the gods are people. I think that they're sort of like an interdimensional powerful being, but that's our interpretation, because that's the only way that we can see it, or that's how they're choosing to show themselves to us. I think that there's a lot in the world that we can't explain.
Yeah, sorry. When I was talking about the Greek gods, they are all representations of elemental forces of nature.
Yeah.
That, human beings tried to comprehend, like the god Zeus, who is the god of the skies, lightning, thunder. That's what his true form is. He's thunder and lightning. The forces that we don't understand, the natural forces that surround us, we give it form through the gods. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they interpret that as a man throwing a thunderbolt.
Yeah.
Rather than the actual force itself.
Yeah.
The interpretation of what an angel looked like in the Old Testament of the Bible back in the days, and it's this, if you've looked at renders of it, it's not like this lovely, nice woman, you know, who's very good looking and has wings. It's this horrible looking creature with giant eyes and, you know,
1,000 heads.
yeah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we get the phrase do not be afraid when they talk about them.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think there's a lot that we can't explain that goes on. I think that there's a lot of energy and sort of stuff that goes on between people and between us all that sort of binds us all together.
Yeah.
And I sort of always thought that I think that there's a next dimension that we go to when we die after this. And I think ghosts and like psychic mediums and people like yourself, I've always interpreted as you guys are tapping into that in-between space between here and there. That's why when you hear ghosts, they're ghosts because they, you know, they have unresolved issues or something that's keeping them here, or they're a vengeful spirit. They're trapped in an in-between space between, you know, life and death.
This one and the next.
Yeah. And I think that sort of psychics and stuff, they channel that energy in between. All of that in-between space is the energy that can, you know, get between, say, us and the next.
Yeah. And I think too, like there's a saying that, I don't know, is it energy never is destroyed, it just changes shape.
Yeah,
you know,
it moves from one form to another. Yeah,
and it shifts, you know.
Talking about like the physics term.
Yeah.
And so even too, like I've contemplated, like I try to really go deep and go, okay, well, if I'm just crazy and I'm just living in imagination that's fairly accurate all the time. But what if when I die, you know, if I die and that's it, how do I've thought about my body still will live on in the earth. You know, we still live on in that way too. Our body, you know, a part, you know, it goes into the earth, decomposes, goes, and then it exists in everything, you know. So even beyond that, like I try to, you know, really question that, because a lot of people turn to spirituality for comfort, but I like to challenge that and go, because I don't believe, I mean, spirituality can be a crutch for a lot of people, but I think what's even better if people can take it and really challenge their perceptions. So it's not a crutch, it's more like it's a power, you know? Do you get what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's not so much, because I'm scared of dying, I'm going to believe that there's something else, you know? But what if I challenge that and go, okay, you know, what if that doesn't exist? Am I comfortable with the concept of just non-existent? You know, just dying and that's it. I challenge that in my mind, you know, and see where I feel comfortable with that and try and challenge that. So it's not a crutch for me. It's more so it's my power, it's my belief, and I trust that is what my truth feels like, and that's what feels right to me. Yeah. Realistically,
you still exist. Like you're saying, you do still exist. You're just not conscious of it.
Yeah.
Potentially, like, you know, you die, you're still existing, but you're not conscious of your existence.
Yeah. Well, see, from my experience as tapping into spirit, you know, it's almost like, yes, they exist on this other plane. They, you know, they shift, you know. Some of them, you know, I don't know, because again, I can only speak from experience, that there is definitely something beyond this world. It's definitely, and from my belief, you know, sometimes spirits can get stuck in the, say, like lower aspect of reality. So they exist in their ego or their habits as a human. But when they choose to find peace, like we talk about when spirits want to cross over, that is when their soul sort of detaches from their human existence, and that realization occurs that I'm much more than what I was when I passed, you know. Yeah. So that's from my own experience, and I've actually had spirits sort of go, thank you, you know, as in like that realization of saying thank you for doing this for me, because the whole time I was caught up in the same stuff like I was on Earth, you know. And it was only until you came in and helped to go, okay, hello, you're dead, you know, it's time to move on, you know, that they've kind of gone, you know. and then that realization occurs for them. So yeah, but from my experience, spirits maintain their human personalities even when they leave.
Yep.
So yeah, sometimes they'll carry on and do whatever. So yeah.
So do you believe that there's like a heaven and hell, or what's your interpretation?
That's very
of
complicated. That's
the-
very I mean, again, Christian society wants us to believe that there's a beautiful heaven, and there's like the concept of hell has always existed, but it's like, going back to like the Norse, they have Hela, or Hel, which is the basically, go back. So they have Valhalla, which is where the noble Vikings go when they die in war. They're taken to this place where they can feast, celebrate. But the people that don't die valiantly go to Hel, which is Hel, which is ruled by Loki's daughter, the trickster god Hel, or Hela, which is sort of...
And how was she born, Jake?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently sex with a giant, wasn't it?
I don't know. Oh, no, wasn't she the mare one where, like, Loki turned into a mare
Because
and had sex with someone?
Fenrir, so the serpent, then Fenrir and her were all born together. That's the
Yeah.
story that I've read anyway. But yeah,
That's gross.
so the idea of hell in that concept is like dark and, damp and not really fun,
So kind of like where the Norse people existed 24/7.
Yeah.
Where it was damp and dark.
Yeah, that's... Yeah, exactly.
In Norway, yes.
And then, like in with the Greeks, the underworld was their heaven. When you died, you would go in the ground and you would go into the underworld. But there were different layers to the underworld. You'd have the good places, but then you'd also have the really bad places like Tartarus, which was not a very nice place to go, So when it comes to the idea of heaven, I don't necessarily think of it something that's above us, or below us. I kind of see it's right in front of us. It's in between, it exists in all that existence. But I do believe that beings can exist on different planes of existence as well. That thought has often, they can, exist in different sort of dimensions and realms and all that sort of thing. So when we die, our soul will go to a place, obviously, where souls go. And I was always taught with the belief that a soul would, stay for a bit if it wanted to, then go and do a healing process. And that has been mentioned a lot through with other spiritual practitioners as well. So I like to get my research from multiple sources. So if it comes from multiple sources, I find there is some truth in it. So I like to, and it feels right for me too. But, in terms of like, I don't see the heaven and hell, like, so, when it comes to things like, shouldn't the bad guys go to hell because they're really bad? I think it's 10 times worth. I actually believe that they have to be responsible when they die to experience all the pain that they caused and be responsible for it. Not in so much as a torment, but that when they pass, they will be, because I believe there is always forgiveness. I believe that they will be presented with what they've done, and they have to basically almost like experience it or own up to it, and then decide what they want to do next.
Yeah.
And from there, if that soul chooses, it gets, obviously that's more like from a spiritual perspective, but I'm a big believer that God, into God, not necessarily like the Christian concept, but God as an energy source, gave us all free will. So when we come down onto this plane, when we exist in this plane, we all have free will and we all have choices, but there are also consequences to our actions as well. So if you choose to do things, you are then responsible for that, maybe, in the afterlife, or if you believe in reincarnation, to experience that on another level and learn that again in another lifetime. So I believe that, that responsibility, because we've been given free will, is a thing. Yeah. So like when I was talking about ritual, if any action or energy that I put out into the universe, I am therefore responsible for.
What's your thoughts on, like, when you brought up the karmic thing, the reincarnation, how, like, they say, like, there's different ages for different spirits, like people's souls and stuff. How, like, when Chrissy and Pete will discuss, like, you've lived 1,000 lifetimes or something like that, and there's some people who haven't.
Yeah.
Like, how does that work? Like,
Well, I don't know. Again, that's someone's own perception. So
Yeah.
that's only what I've been brought up with. So, I mean, there's different perceptions on what reincarnation is. Like,
Yeah.
I've always been called an old soul,
yeah.
you know. But something like, I feel like if there was reincarnations, and that's what I always go to my gut, and I always ask myself, and I go right down deep, and I go, okay, do I feel... And I go, I vibe with that. You know, I vibe with the concept of reincarnation because I believe, you know, one life isn't just enough. I think, you know, as souls, we're constantly learning. We're always learning. And I think just to experience one life wouldn't attain much knowledge, you know. So either we learn, you know, again, or we learn more in the afterlife. Yeah.
Because there's a lot of people in our childhood who would talk about reincarnation, and they'll basically say that, like, you're an old soul in the sense of that, like, you've been through thousands and thousands of lives, hundreds of lives,
And
or thousands of experiences.
I will say too, like, in terms of spirituality, when we talk about the crazies, right, people like to dwell in the past. And I believe that, yes, we can acknowledge other lifetimes, but this is our life now. So people would constantly refer to themselves as being like a high priestess or this or that in another lifetime, and they will dwell on that. And I think that's very unhealthy. I think unless you need to work through whatever experience wants to come up, because it's all embedded in us, that's what I believe. And if we do have, you know, different lifetimes, it's all embedded into our soul, you know, our, you know, that the thing that is the soul, you know, so, but people like to dwell in that, and, you know, so that's why, like I said, again, being skeptical, people like to dwell on these concepts, and there's a lot of modern terminology to do with, like, things like twin flames and soulmates. I have particular opinions on, because I think people, as human beings, we can get caught up in the excitement and thrill of certain things.
What do you think about soulmates? Do you think that it's a real thing? Or?
Well, for me personally, I do believe we have many soulmates in a lifetime, and a soulmate is basically there to teach us something. You know, it's not necessarily to do with love. It can be, our worst enemy can be our soulmate, because they are there to teach us something about ourselves, and like vice versa.
Yeah.
And I believe through our lifetimes we have different soulmates. Yeah.
What else was I going to ask you? It's hard. Paranormal experiences.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun one.
Paranormal experiences.
so-
Our house is creepy as fuck.
How so?
Remember when it wasn't renovated?
Jake thought it was great. He could
Yeah.
talk to all his friends. And there was all this like stuff going on for
Well,
him.
there was one time.
Get me out.
No, remember that one time you said you woke up and the bed was shaking?
Yeah, that
Do you
one. I
remember
told
that?
Chris that, yeah. Did I tell you that? Yeah.
See, but I, like, and it happened to Mum, because Mum woke, because my mum's, well, she's fairly intuitive as well, because she had a similar experience, but, like, I would perform rituals and stuff in my bedroom and all that sort of thing, and my brother's going, what the hell's going on, you know?
It's fucking shaking.
One of the...
Sleep
one of
paralysis
the,
demons, and it's like, fuck this.
one of the family friends at the time come over. It was Peter, I think. He'd come over, and
Yeah.
you know, because Mum had obviously asked him to come over and check over the place. And he turned to me and said, "No one spells out of the ordinary." And I'm like, "No, I'm not like summoning like anything I shouldn't be." You know, because it was really drummed into us that we had to protect ourselves and be safe. So, you know
something I still do that Chrissy taught me when I'm like really feeling uncomfortable? You know when she told us, you say white light, please protect me tonight?
Yeah.
I still say that. Even though I don't fucking really fully believe in it, but I feel better when I say
But,
it.
you know, and
It's like,
that's, yeah.
like there's something like, I was at this weird psychic fair at this person's place, and we were just getting used to know these people, Peter and Chrissy, who became like family friends. Chrissy's like, she's been through a hell of a lot of her life, but she's also like an acclaimed psychic as well. And Peter's a spiritual person. He practices feng shui and all this spiritual healing shit. Also, he's slightly got a bit of weird, kooky stuff.
Kind of sort of like a religious man. I have a lot of respect for him though,
Yeah.
with his knowledge, but he almost comes across like a religious fanatic.
Yeah.
If we'd say that. Well, I'd
Because
say
it can lead to like this weird line of like dangerous. It could be potentially dangerous if he goes too far as well.
Yeah.
Because of like his belief system.
Yeah.
But
But, yeah.
anyway, yeah, we're at a psychic fair and I was a kid. I was like fucking 10 or 11 or something, and I was like, you know, what happens if I'm scared at night? And like, because like sometimes you get fucking horrified as a kid. And just Chrissy told us like, you just say, white light, please protect us. And I just imagine a white light clearing out the room as if it's cleansing it. Like, and I still fucking do that because it's a habit. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so you had the bed shake in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
Violently.
Yeah.
What else?
Well, for me.
Yeah.
Or you want to go
Well,
first,
I don't
Ted?
even think I've had any paranormal experiences.
Yeah, have you told? Like, I remember when you were young, you told me you'd see walkers, people with lanterns walking around the house and stuff. They'll just pass through.
How old was I?
You were young. You were telling me like how like sometimes at night time you would see like these spirits that would just walk through. They're not harmful, but they look creepy, but they just walk through.
See, I don't remember that.
Oh yeah, I remember that conversation because it scared the shit out of me.
See, I don't remember like things like that. I mean, like when it comes to like spirit, you sort of go into a different sort of thought process. Like it's something in your brain, it's a shift, and then you sort of you step out of it.
So like, why would you you'd sleep with the light on?
Oh yeah, and that's something that I've tried to challenge. I've got to have some form of light, because if I'm not tired enough, the blank canvas of the night is amazing for my brain and my imagination. But two, I think it's also too because sometimes I do generally feel spirits, and sometimes I will, and sometimes they appear as like shadow figures. They just sort of pop in every now and again, but it's not like they stand at my end of my bed or anything. It's just sort of energy that I feel. So having the light on reduces the intensity of that, because I acknowledge that yes, I have a lot of irrational fears sometimes, but then I also do see and feel things.
So am I the only one that experienced shit in that house, or you just?
I think
Yeah,
so.
Paul, that was tormented.
I can't even remember.
I remember you talking about so much shit as a kid.
Maybe we don't go ghost hunting, Matt.
Maybe we don't. Maybe
I want you to be alright.
maybe
feel safe.
I'm the cursed one.
Yeah. Well, maybe we
Cursed
do go
child.
ghost hunting, but we put like Matt out in like the middle of the cemetery and we just see what happens.
No, we get
knocked out by
a
ghosts.
massive bag of salt and put it around his neck,
Oh.
and then he'll be okay.
Yeah. I probably should actually get like some random tattoos that like protect me from witchcraft and shit. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, there's actually one experience I had. I don't know if it was probably me coming out of a dream, but I had a tactile disturbance of somebody grabbing me. That was fucking horrifying. It was always in that back room.
Yeah, I reckon. But they didn't we have? There was an old man that haunted our toilet apparently.
Yeah.
Because my mum sense things, and I guess as kids you don't really sort of know what a spirit is or a ghost is. You just
You see it. You just see it. Or
Yeah,
feel
you
it,
don't really
And
like.
it's not out of the ordinary. They reckon like kids and dogs and stuff are very receptive to the paranormal, and it's something that a lot of people, they don't 100% know why, but like most people will sort of almost grow out of in a way, but they reckon kids are very, very, very...
And I think it comes down to conditioning, because as kids and animals, they don't know any different. Yeah. And they don't question what they see and what they feel. Whereas as adults, we're taught that stuff is woo-woo, and we shouldn't be able to, we're just crazy or we're mental, whatever. So as we grow older, we shut off because we're told that's not a good thing.
I'm trying to think what else I've experienced in that house.
I've had someone touch me on the shoulder while in the car, and I thought Mum was touching my shoulder, but it couldn't have possibly. She was sitting here. Yeah. And it felt like someone had touched, and I went to do it. I'm like, oh shit, no one's there, but someone touched me. I remember that. But see, like, my paranormal experiences or my ghost experience happen when I do readings. Yeah. So that's different from like a haunting. It's more so when I do readings that have experiences that, like, I'll have confirmation for what I'm seeing. So I'm actually communing with the spirits themselves and not, having things move or anything like that.
Yeah. Cupboard doors opening.
Doors opening.
We've had some weird shit like the TV randomly turning on and stuff at our house.
Yeah, we had that too.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
I can't believe you can't remember this shit. Maybe I'm just delusional.
That's right.
As you're saying.
Remember.
Yeah, so the house that I grew up in was the same one my mum grew up in. And so after my mum's parents had died and it was their house, the house was pretty much still the same layout. Yeah. And we'd have things like, and it happened in like a logical order, like a door would open and then the kettle would turn on randomly. or like then the TV would turn on, or we could literally sit there and watch with no doors open, no draft, watch the door like open. Like you just leave it, so you can't leave it like closed.
Yeah.
But if you leave it a little bit ajar and there's no draft, and we'd sit there and watch it, and then it just go.
Yeah. See, that's
and,
so cool.
And you could do it almost on command, and then you go and shut it, and then they'd open it over and over and over, and there was no draft, no aircon on, no nothing.
Yeah.
That would happen constantly. My brother had, I don't know whether, because he is actually got like mental health issues and schizophrenia and stuff, but he had someone in his room who was like his imaginary friend that he would talk to. And he'd be able to tell this whole story about this guy, and this guy was alive and did this and that and all this other stuff.
Was it confirmed at all?
No, just that was. So I remember telling my parents about it, and they were like, "Yeah, no, let's not talk about that."
So
and,
sorry. Okay.
No, and then there was one time when the room where my parents moved into used to be my grandfather's room.
Yeah.
And that was one of. So then when we renovated the house, that was one of the few rooms that remained the exact same. And then, so I remember my brother, I told you this story, my brother came like screaming out that there was this dark man sitting on the edge of the bed that disappeared into the floor to my mum, which was pretty...
Well, see, that's actually quite common occurrence, seeing shadow figures, especially like from my own research, you know, that's something that people experience. There's even like a whole like site or like sites dedicated to shadow people. And, you know, things like that. But that's like when people say, oh, I saw this at the end of my bed, or I saw this, I'm like, yeah, that's normal, you know. But yeah, interesting. And like you said, when you said you were brought up in more of a Christian household, did that affect how you viewed what was happening, or how did you view that at the time?
Keep going, I'll fix that.
The camera's just stopped.
I might be that.
Or something.
So I'll stop the gun. It's already stopped once. So.
Do.
No, it's probably just doesn't like running that long.
I'm just trying to make it mysterious and spooky.
Yeah.
Spooky.
How did it influence?
Yeah, how did you view it? Saying because you said you were brought up in a Christian household. How did you view what was happening? Like, did you see that? Because I know a lot of Christians would see that as demons. Or evil.
We saw it as like our actual grandparents, but this was their house, and this is where they came back to, and that's why Mum always, she'd even talk to them, like it was her parents returning back to, you know, where they spent their whole life.
Yep. Cool.
Which I never felt comfortable in the house. Not a single, like even now when I go back there, I can't stay there in the dark.
Yeah.
Like I hate being in the house. Like
now, is that a fear of what happened, or do you think that's is it the vibe of the place?
I think it's both. Yep. I just always feel like I'm being watched in that house constantly.
And that's
like
that's a normal sign of a haunting, is feeling watched.
Yeah, I always feel that uneasiness.
Yeah.
Like something's about to like happen, and especially with stuff like that going on. Like even to this day now, when I go back out there, like if I have to lock the house up if Dad's away and look after the house, like
one thing I will tell you, whether it helps you or not, remember that you are in control. You are living, they are dead. So you tell them that. You tell them, you go, hi, if you want to talk to them, because you know they're there, go, hi, my name's such and such, my name's Chris, no funny business please. If you want to try and get my attention, you can do something if you've got an important message. But other than that, no bullshit.
Sounds like a voicemail.
Set in that boundary. Tell them, excuse me. Look, I have a rule. I don't want no spirits watching me while I'm showering. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Set those boundaries.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
It's exciting.
I never felt comfortable looking in the mirror at that house.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Yeah. In the dark, I couldn't sleep. In that house, I actually slept with a night light.
Yeah.
Pretty much the whole time I was there, which is something I don't do anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Any other experiences? There's a lot of candle right in front of us because like that'll add to the.
Maybe one. We went on a ghost tour at Port Arthur in Tasmania, which is apparently a very haunted.
Yeah, I've
place.
heard lots of stories. I haven't been, but I've heard lots of stories.
Yeah, and I remember I never said anything to someone, and I don't know whether it was just them drumming it up, but the dude we went with, the psychic medium that we went with, was very much like most psychics I've seen. He's very skeptical. He's like, oh, nothing will happen, we'll be right. But I remember we walked into this house, and before we knew that it was like haunted or something, I just remember I was looking straight down the hallway, and as we entered, because I was like one of the first people to go in behind this guy, I remember seeing something like move away behind the curtain, like at the other end of the house, on the outside of the house, like looking in. So I don't know whether that was just a person, obviously, that worked there or something, but I remember being a bit...
Yeah, you second guess yourself because it's like you don't know, but then you think, oh... And that's what I mean. Like, sometimes I'll be walking down the street and I'll see something and I'll go, hang on, what was that? And I go through that process of rationalising it. And then if I can't find a rational explanation, I'll go, no, that was definitely spirit. That's how I worked that one out in my brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like the way I kind of see the way that spirit interacts with us is it's almost like, you know, you're walking down the street and there are spirits... You know, it's like walking down the mall. But we're not talking to the people. We don't know them, but they are there.
Yeah.
You know, and you know sometimes they might connect with our energy, follow us home, or you know, yeah. But they do exist. They are around us all the time.
Yeah.
From my experience, anyway.
I had one experience when I was camping with Scotty when I was like 16, 17, where like I went to take a piss and like we were facing away from like any roads and we were like in the middle of the bush and like this big orb of light was just hanging there and he and I saw the same thing and I wasn't smoking anything. Yeah.
I don't think smoking things is going to make it.
Yeah.
I always think that like psychotropic... Is that what I'm... No,
Yeah.
Like psychedelic drugs, sorry.
Psychotropic would be the right term, I think.
Psychedelic.
Psychedelic, like DMT, marijuana.
Yeah.
That's very popular with a lot of I was actually getting in conversation with someone about, you know, taking mushrooms and you know, taking different narcotics and all that sort of thing in terms of like helping to alter your state and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it makes you more receptive to...
It does, but I do believe it... Can we swear? Fuck, I've already sweared. It fucks
okay.
you up. It does. It fucks you up. And I believe there are different ways to alter consciousness besides using drugs. You know, like beer and alcohol, spirits, that alters our state of being, but it also has an effect on our physical being as well.
That's why they call it spirits.
And that's why, yeah. Well, they actually used to believe that, you know, when you got drunk from wine, it was actually the spirit of the plant possessing you.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so when you got intoxicated, it was the spirit of the vine intoxicating you. That's an old belief. But what I'm saying is, yeah, people tend to use things like drugs and alcohol to help them escape their reality and help sort of make them feel a bit better. But there are, when it comes to things like, you know, certain plants and we're talking about mushrooms, I think, you know, there's a lot of like tribes and native cultures that use plants like that to alter their consciousness, but they did it in a way that was respectful and they didn't abuse it. They literally believed that spirit, that plant had a spirit, and so they respected it. Whereas in our modern day white society, you know, we need a quick fix, so we just shove it down our throats without thinking two thoughts about it because it's going to make us feel
Also,
I think it'd be good to do like DMT or something like that.
Yeah.
Once. Like
And
in the right environment.
Yeah.
Like a high dose maybe once. But
I couldn't think... I mean, like, I always have our dad's voice in the back of our mind. You know, if we ever did fucking drugs, he'd take us into another room and belt the shit out of us.
Yeah.
I think that was more so if we ever got addicted to anything and...
Oh, because Dad's done things.
Oh, God, yeah.
He's a big
Yeah.
hypocrite. Just, yeah.
He's just seen how it affects people, yeah.
Yeah, Dad's been on
There's
extreme.
nothing wrong with having a little bit of smoky. I mean, I've never smoked anything, But I think I've burned enough herbs and incense to,
You've definitely done
a
something.
lot of the herbs can give a slight high, that you burn in ritual and stuff. It
It's
helps
because of a lack
alter.
of oxygen, probably.
Yeah. No, the actual plant.
Actual plant does as well. I believe that anyway, yeah, because...
But yeah, breathing. Of course, it does matter. It all
Well,
sort of applies. Meditation, breathing.
Yeah. Or you can get you can actually have DMT experiences from certain breathing exercises.
I'll try that.
You want to try it? We'll try it after this if you want. I'll Google it. There's this. It's
Google.
it's like this.
It's like hold breath until you pass
No,
out.
it's similar to
That's working.
it's similar to Wim Hof's method, where like you have to do like this cyclic breathing, where like you nearly give yourself hyperalkalosis.
Is it the one where you go?
Yeah.
Have you tried doing that one?
Sort of like that.
Yeah,
So
I
you breathe in
practice
deep, then
that
you
one.
breathe short, breathe, exhale. You still have a full lung, and you just slowly.
Well, the one that I was taught when we were working on doing this tarot therapy course connected with the element of air, we were taught this exercise where it was literally like you lie down on the floor and you do it for so long and it's like and you just keep doing that and it's a certain pace that you keep to help and it's
Until you hyperventilate.
Yeah. No, well you don't. I've done it and you don't.
Yeah, well, this one I did
Helps alter.
before. You feel so good. It's like the beginner's guide to Wim Hof. And like you sit down and you do it for like 10 minutes and you feel high as a kite afterwards. But I haven't gotten to the point where I'm hallucinating or meeting God.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like all of a sudden the door, you see like a stairway or some shit.
Maybe we are God.
Maybe.
Maybe
Yeah.
I'm God.
Maybe we...
Maybe you're God.
Yeah, really? Jake shows up. Surprise!
Hello.
I told.
Fuck.
I told you.
Walls fade away. This is
Gosh,
not real house.
I couldn't claim to be that. God, no.
What's
Pun
that?
intended.
Fuck. No, we see Chris and I have seen the extreme end of abuse of that sort of stuff.
Oh, absolutely,
So,
absolutely.
and because you live in this town, of course.
Oh god, yeah. I had someone claim to be possessed by an Aboriginal spirit, trying to throw herself into the river. They called me, knowing what I do, but no one thought about calling the ambulance. Like, this woman is obviously unstable and she's trying to kill herself.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you get the proper, But it's funny, as soon as the ambulance came and the police came, she stopped.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Behaviour.
So...
Yeah, well, we've met plenty of those.
I've never met, in cases of, like, actual possession, from what I've read. I listened to this audiobook on, like, demonic possession. It was very much from a Catholic viewpoint. So it was very one-sided. I mean, exorcism exists in all different cultures. But actual possession is very rare. And you actually have to give permission for it to happen in some way. So it's not sort of the demon just decides to possess you. On some level, you have given permission for it to enter your being.
What kind of level?
What do you mean?
So, do you have to, sit there and be like, okay? Or...
Well, I think it can... Well, from what I've taught, there's different stages of demonic possession or spirit possession. It's like it'll sort of things will happen on the outside, like scratches and all that sort of thing, or things like a haunting almost, and then it gradually builds into it sort of works its way. It's almost like an intelligence works its way, almost like an abusive relationship, sort of where the person sort of starts to accept that that's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's that sort of stage that they access. But I don't think I can say that I've ever met someone that was possessed. I can say that I've met people that have had spirit attachments that were nasty, but not necessarily been possessed by it, because, like I said, I believe that we've been given free will. So if we constantly feed on the idea that we are possessed, and we believe we are, we're feeding into it as well.
Yeah, it's that borderline between mental and
you
spiritual.
give permission for that to happen.
Yeah. What about the African possessions?
Like voodoo?
Oh, that is the most intense.
It's
shit
so
watching.
cool. See, it's very fascinating. We'll see even in Korean shamanism, it's similar.
Yeah.
So you'll see them cut themselves and they won't bleed.
Yeah.
Things like that. But that's more so almost like what we
They're
call...
dehydrated.
So I think there's a different... I think when we talk about spirit possession, I think that's more so in a way that's sort of a bit more violent and more aggressive, whereas someone that's possessed or allows a spirit to enter in almost like a healthy, positive way. It's almost just like what we call channeling when people channel. But again, it depends. Are these spirits that are entering the body, are they good, are they bad? It all depends. But from voodoo is a religion, and they believe that it's an honor to be possessed by these spirits and for them to speak through you when you receive training by a mambo or hugan, which are the priests of the religion, to be able to allow that to happen. Again, it's from my own research, they do a lot of stuff to help alter that. It's very different from they have the real, am I allowed to say primitive way of doing it, I've seen people they'll put gunpowder in your mouth, or whereas in other circles you'll have more of it's almost like the spiritualist. They'll dance and they'll sing and make offerings, and they'll allow it to happen. They'll allow the spirits to come in. I don't know, mate, I shouldn't use the word primitive. More like, I don't know, but it's all kind of the same.
What is it? Well, because the African culture is probably one of the oldest cultures. Most of their cultures are the oldest.
Yeah, but it's just sort of, from what I've seen, it's very sort of like they really try and alter it. So even if they weren't altered, they're still altered by substances that they're partaking in.
Yeah. And you never go near them when they're doing performances, because they can beat the shit out of you. That's also something when you go to Africa and you see a spiritual performance, you don't go near them. Especially if you're white, because apparently the spirits like to go near white people. There's a bit of that race stuff going on as well in that context.
Yeah, it's very interesting. It's very fascinating. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I find it fascinating.
Well, you brought up Korean shamanism, and I didn't even think of Koreans and what they believe in.
Well, when they take on their gods, their deity, which is similar, because
is the same as Shinto?
No, I don't know if I don't know. I haven't heard. I think there are mediums in shit. I couldn't actually know. Can't say. But yeah, it's almost the idea that these gods will possess them and they'll dress in particular clothes, which is similar to what I've seen with voodoo rites. Yeah. They will have... did you just call Chivers?
Oh, no, I was just thinking about a Japanese mythology thing.
So, anyway, they will dress in a certain way that appeases the spirit, and, they will dance and they'll sing. It's very similar.
Yeah.
But different, obviously different cultures and stuff have different, so it's almost just like creating that trance, and they will, they'll allow, and they will detach from their body.
Yeah.
And they'll allow that spirit to ride them, as they call it, being a horse. So, and then that spirit may accept the offerings, or they might speak wisdom.
Yeah. Cool. What else you got?
That's probably about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
I haven't got a huge... I think we covered everything straight off the bat.
Is there anything that I was talking about that I didn't fully explain properly? Or that you'd like more information on?
Where are the best places in town to have paranormal experience?
You're telling me the cemetery.
Yeah, I reckon the cemetery out near the airport is pretty haunted, in terms of energy. The old Nichols Point one, it literally feels dead to me. I mean, maybe a little bit of energy, but because it's still fresh, so to say, out at the Nichols, the one out near the airport, and there's a lot more activity there, a lot more energy, because a lot more people are gathering there.
Because I love a creepy story. Remember Joe, like you were saying before, that Joe Giuseppe Padula?
Yeah.
When we were kids, we did a ghost hunt, and he said we couldn't stay at the Nichols Point Cemetery past 12 p.m. because a black dog would come with red eyes and stood on his hind legs.
Yeah.
That's why I avoid that cemetery.
I've heard there's the one out at the old Redcliffe Cemetery. I've heard stories about, people with, gathering around a grave with candles and, you know, real ritualistic, and there's all these stories that people, you know, but yeah, things like the red eyes and the black dog, that's almost like the devil.
Yeah.
You know, so that, and
It's
that's
very Catholic.
That's fair. Oh no, but that's actually, you know, things like the black dog are very much embedded in a lot of cultures.
Well, you know, when you shine a light, you see red eyes or white eyes at night for predators.
I'd shit myself.
What do you reckon about skinwalkers?
Oh, Indian stuff.
I don't know, because I haven't experienced it. I know that's a topic that they don't talk about, because they literally. I've heard people have experiences. Essentially, they're an evil spirit, you know. But from what I've also read is that they are, like evil shamans, basically. That's sort of the gist I get. But I can't say because I haven't experienced. But I'm always open, you know, because being who I am and what I do, you know, I'm always open to the idea of spirits, and because I mean these have existed for that. Why? Who's to say that they don't exist?
Because skinwalkers are the Wendigo, aren't they?
No, I think that's different. That's werewolves.
Different. No, I thought Wendigo was like a...
Skinwalkers are more like evil shapeshifters.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, they like to play with and like torment humans.
And apparently,
That's
you know,
entire
in order to
existence.
become one, you have to kill... there's a ritual that you have to kill another member of your family in order to become a skinwalker. Like, it's real dark. And don't get me wrong, I know that there's dark shit out in this world. There are people out there that are evil and do...
Government organisations experiment in this shit. Like, you know, like the CIA, they're like experimenting.
Like, there's cults that, you know, ritual sacrament. That does exist. Again. But I'm like I said, you know... Again, you have to be skeptical about this stuff because you start getting into the conspiracy theories and stuff.
Oh, that's what we love doing.
But that stuff does, it is out there, you know, because, well, if our brains can think it, there is bound to be someone or some group that's doing it.
I bet you there is somebody who believes they're a shaman. They've skinned somebody alive and wearing their skin. There's definitely
Oh, absolutely. Well, didn't it, you know, the Viking, they had the magic pants, which was made from these magic pants made from a corpse skin.
Yeah.
And they'd and they'd wear it and it believed to give them magic.
A lot of the Gauls did that too. A lot of the Germanic tribes did that too. So, well, they had the similar belief. They had Odin voted.
Yeah,
same
it's sort
shit,
of intricate. I mean, I'm not a historian or anything, so I can't claim that.
Yeah.
So
it used to be a practice where they'd they'd wear their heads around their victims around their shoulders as well as when the skin.
It's all sometimes, you know, and it comes to that psychological aspect as well. You know, sometimes people might use magic in psychological warfare as well, so they're not necessarily performing a curse, they're actually just messing with someone. And that can be greater than actually doing any spell because the person believes it in their mind.
That shit, like, they did that, they still do that shit now for, like, modern warfare. Like, they did that in World War II. There's a guy, like, he was a Finnish sniper, and he was defending a Russian invasion, and he was known as, like, the White Spirit, like, because he'd have, like, 100 kills. Like, that was, like...
Well, see, even, like, they say that Hitler was very fascinated by the occult.
Yeah.
And he said he had astrologers that would actually tell him good points in time to do different things. Now, from someone that knows astrology, that's pretty... using that to do what he did, that's pretty, you know... Like, certain astrological, you know, events and situations, like you've heard about Mercury retrograde. Have you heard of that one?
Oh, I've heard it as a meme.
You know, things like that. So, you know, you wouldn't begin a traveling during Mercury retrograde isn't good because your car might fail or there might, you know, you book an appointment but then someone mishears what you say, so when you get that you've booked the wrong room, stuff like that happens. So in terms of like astrology, if you're planning to do something or world domination, you go, okay, this planet's in this position and this is the effect that it has. This is the perfect time to do that. So, that's pretty...
Yeah.
Dum, dum, dum.
I really want to go on, like, a hunt now.
Yeah.
We just got to buy, like, a Chevy Impala and get some leather jackets on.
We'll have an episode of Thought and
Supernatural.
Probably
Ghost
Supernatural.
hunting episode dressed up as Sam and Dean.
Sam! Sam! I'll be Sam, you be Dean then, wouldn't you?
No, you'd be Dean.
Okay.
Yeah.
You'd get possessed by a demon then.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm ever since I was young people, I've been obsessed with witches, even in like media and stuff.
Yeah.
So like, I love watching different movies and their take on the occult and how they interpret witches and warlocks and all that sort of thing. And Supernatural I really like their take on it, even though it's sort of like from a really dark sort of. I like their take on witchcraft.
It feels more human, doesn't it?
It's really primal, and it's like, right, let's stab a knife into a dead chicken and make somewhere cough up blood. That's just, yeah. Not that I think that's a nice thing to do to anyone, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I like their take on it. I really think it's more, and witchcraft it's never been like, it's only just sort of been more modernised to suit. But witchcraft, if we're talking about real old school witches, they're not afraid to pick up a chicken, cut its head off and let it bleed out to use its blood. Like, that's old school stuff, Yum. But like I said, if you eat chicken, if you eat meat, sacrifices all around.
Can we go to like conspiracy? Like, what sort of conspiracies can you think of, Chris, in this sort of world? I'm trying to think of some.
God, Matt. It's too early for the conspiracy.
Bigfoot?
Everyone will be back on the conspiracy podcast. We'll have like 9 people.
We'll have like a chat. We've had a workmate come in who's given us a list of conspiracies, and it looks like it's going to be like a forever series.
There's the one where Madonna's part of the Illuminati.
Yeah.
And don't watch the Super Bowl performance because she's I can't deal with that shit. I can't.
Yeah, I love
it. Just does my head in because there's people that actually believe it's real, and it just annoys me.
Chris, do you believe Alex Jones is actually revealing the truth?
Alex Jones is a hard one because you start Googling the stuff that he's saying and then it starts coming out as true.
Yeah.
So then you're like, you start doing the math and it's like, this crazy stuff that he's saying will happen.
Yeah.
That he said all this crazy stuff was going to happen 15 years ago that's happening now.
Yeah.
That he's right about. So what is all this, is all this crazy stuff going to happen in the next 10 years? And is he like that because he's in on this huge conspiracy and he's trying to find out about this huge, conspiracies every day and how much knowledge he has. And it's no wonder that he is over the top ranting like he is.
Yeah.
If everything that he says is going to come true and he knows that for a fact, wouldn't you be screaming from the mountaintops and rooftops and at anyone that would listen to you about all these crazy...
Because I believe the rich people definitely meet up and have like pheasant ceremonies and stuff like that.
I don't think there's like a Illuminati controlling absolutely everything, but I think they're just like everyone gets together.
Yeah. And
everyone, you look at work, everyone wants to get together and run the hospital the way that they want to run it.
Mm.
The same thing would be happening in society, that powerful people would probably gather and then talk about how they're going to change things and put their people in power and get their spin on the world.
Mm.
Yeah. That's what I mean, come back to spirituality. That's why it's healthy to be skeptical and not get caught up, because the shit that I have heard, I'm just like, I mean, I'm open, like I said, I'm open, but some of the things, weird. Yes. How long have we been going for?
An hour and a bit.
An hour and a bit?
Yeah. We could probably keep going, but do you have to be somewhere as well?
No.
No.
I don't have to be anywhere until tomorrow, so...
Yeah. Matt was saying, what'd you say? To get you to do a reading on me, and I was like, fuck no.
See that? Yeah, and that's because of your own fears and insecurities and perceptions.
100%.
Yeah, so, like, sometimes, like, when I read people, it's more for self-empowerment. Basically, that's how I choose to read. So, so if I have permission now, if I was to tune into your energy with permission again,
Needs consent, mate. It's like a vampire. at the
consent
doorstep.
helps. You know, I need to be able to. You know. Let's see.
No.
What?
Matt's brother.
Yeah.
No.
No, you're too nervous. I can feel it in your gut. You got a sick feeling in your gut.
Read Matt.
My brother. I know my brother. It's hard to read him. Nah, it's alright. I was actually sensing a dog spirit around you, actually. So whether you either had a dog that you loved that passed away, or just a general spirit, but I can see a dog around you. Not that I can actually see what type of dog it is, but there's been a dog that's been very close to you throughout this whole thing. I know that's really random.
Yeah.
But, like I said, spirit, yeah, it's random.
I was just out at my dad's picking up dog poo all day.
Yeah.
Well, for an hour.
Yeah, maybe the spirit of the dog poop followed you.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. But sometimes, well, the dog is a symbol, so sometimes spirit will speak in symbols as well. A dog means loyalty and friendship. Someone that's loyal and sort of sticks to their word as well. And I can kind of tell too that sometimes you do overcomplicate things in your mind as well, and you can be your own worst enemy. Like even talking to you now, so like you will exaggerate things to a point where you block yourself, So, but I think you have enough trust in yourself to be able to step up as well, and that's kind of I can't get a lot, but that's kind of what I get as well from you as well.
Matt, he's doing the thing.
He's doing the thing.
What? What thing? What's the thing?
What's he doing, Chris?
I don't want to know my future.
Yeah.
Oh, the psychic thing. Oh, it's not like that though. I can just yeah.
So how does the crystal ball thing work?
It's just sort of like a mirror for your third eye usually. So it's like projecting. Some people are good at it. I'm not. I can.
So what do you see?
See, he's
something
avoiding
in
the
crystal
subject.
ball?
That's a classic. So yeah. Sorry. All right. I won't read for you. I won't try and read for you. I'm sorry.
What if you get a psychology degree, Jake? You'd be like a
Well, I've often thought about it because it kind of mixes hand in hand because you
Yeah.
can kind of like, if I can learn that
Yeah.
in conjunction with what I feel, that'd be
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, it'd be very intense. You'd just be like, oh yeah.
Because
you lack something in your life, but also-
see how he's sitting in that posture. That shows me that he's a little bit nervous. He's got his legs crossed and he's got his arms, so he's trying to make himself feel comfortable because he's a little bit open to it. He's a little bit open to it, but he's quite not. He's still a little
But
bit
also
nervous.
he's facing more towards me because he knows I'm his comfort place, right?
Yeah, he's facing towards you, so he's looking at you like, "Man, save me."
I always have my feet like this from jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
I'm sitting in full guard.
Yeah, it's just like,
yeah.
but see, that's what I mean. Like, general, like this is stuff that you can read people by their body, but there is more to it though. Like you can see, yeah. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to like do. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean that's
So
the last.
so
thing.
how do you so what happens with the crystal ball? So do you see something in the crystal ball, or
So
do you feel
it's almost like how I was talking about how like the night is like a blank canvas for your mind.
yeah.
That's kind of how the crystal ball works.
So-
So you look at the crystal ball and it will project your whatever's going on into that and it'll reflect it back to you. Some people claim to see things. They might see things in their mind's eye. It just helps to enhance that for them.
People use sand. People use bones.
Oh yeah, it just depends. It's all a tool to help access it because we're the conduit. We're the ones that are actually doing it. Like you can, if you were to gaze in these fires, you can use fire, which is pyromancy. You can gaze into the flames and stuff, But yeah, one of the messages that I do get for you is I think you need to trust yourself a little bit more. Whether that's relevant or not, I feel that you need to trust yourself a little bit more because I think there's maybe at the moment there's a part of you that's kind of like, you question things a little bit, and I think you just need to trust yourself a little bit more, because I think you need to give yourself a little bit more credit.
Can we not make Chris cry on the podcast?
What? Am I
opening up too many holes? We might
All
just
right, yeah,
reveal
sorry.
something in Chris right now.
Sorry. So yeah, I just wanted to like I said, the last thing I want to do is upset anyone or make someone uncomfortable, but I just want to give you an example of how I work, and see because even your energy, you do carry a lot on your shoulders. So I can see just looking over your head, you carry a lot around this area. So it's sort of like you carry everything. So you're looking after someone else and you're probably worrying about this person and that, which is a normal thing as a carer too. But I do see you do carry that a lot around. Do you ever have a lot of issues around your neck area, around your shoulders?
Yeah, I've always got a bad neck.
Yeah, so that's kind of, where the energy can sit, and then it can result in that as well. That's another thing I believe as well.
Yeah. Well, I always had, growing up, always had bad anxiety issues, and I wouldn't sleep, and I always worried about everyone else more than...
Yeah, but I think I also, if you don't mind me, I think I can also pick up there is a bit of trauma there for you as well. I can sense trauma, which is in how deep something. So I can pick that up on someone, and I can see it's not just anxiety. There's something deeper there. I don't know how I know this. But it's, but I think you were a lot better than you have been. You had a stage in your life where you were struggling, and every now and again it comes up. But I do feel that, you are actually pretty good at dealing with it now. That's where I kind of reference that you need to trust yourself a little bit more and give yourself more credit. Okay. Yeah.
I think that's a good point to probably nearly finish. How do you feel after that, Chris? After being spiritually violated by my brother.
I asked permission!
sorry.
That's me psychically slapping my brother.
Yeah.
I don't know, you just sort of, yeah. As well, so.
I wonder how deep you could go into someone. How deep? What's the deepest that you've gone into? So, you get random people off of the street. Tomorrow, you'll get however many random people come up to you for a reading. What's the deepest you've gone into someone that...
I don't know. I guess how much I'm allowed to process it and how much I want to go, I guess.
Yeah.
My friend of mine was showing me a picture of someone, and I just instantly I was slapped with this trauma and anxiety. It was just bang, straight away. And like I said, I can feel it in my body. So it's sort of my body shows me the response. So I feel it in my own way, how I would experience that, But, so it's sort of like I said, when you meet someone, it's sort of you step in their energy. That's why it's important to spiritually clear and detach as well. Otherwise, we're constantly carrying around. For instance, in the area that you work, I would consider that a negative energy hotspot. Because even though they're not psychic, they do carry with them a dark miasma that you're constantly walking in. So on a spiritual level, if you were to look at the wards that you walk in, on a spiritual level, I would say it would be black, foggy.
I'd say it's a condensed Mildura.
You have this thing. And have you ever seen, if you ever watched the anime called Holic, that's a good example, XX Holic. This guy is bombarded by these massive energy and spirits, which is kind of how I describe being in a mental ward, but would be because you would have the spirits that are family that are trying to look after them, the spirits that are lost and attached to that person's energy, especially if they're into drugs, because there's a big belief that drugs actually cut holes in your aura and allow for outside things to enter. So even though they're not spiritual, they have these spiritual attachments to them that feed off their sorrow, their pain, their negativity. You know, so
You would feel that for sure if you walked on that ward.
yeah,
For sure.
and that's what I mean. Sometimes you've got to walk in and detach. Like I don't go around feeling everyone because I'd go mental. But like I said, when I was tuning into you, asked permission. I took that I'd allow the veil to sort of part for a second so I can tap into your energy as well. But I do. You know how we were talking about your grandmother before? I do feel like your grandmother's spirit is with you. And does hang around you as well. She's an interesting woman. I don't know if you've ever met her, but she seems very strong-willed and opinionated.
That's probably both of them.
Well, there's one here that I reckon she's like, you know, her way of life. She's very stuck in her ways, and you know, this is how I run things, so you don't question me. And then I just saw something float across there. That wasn't a bug. I just saw something then. So, yeah. But see what I mean, like having this sort of experience shouldn't be scary. It's like for me, like it's a natural. I know it is scary for someone that hasn't experienced before.
Or when they're bed
but it's
shaking.
almost like think about it, it's almost like
In their beds shaking.
The Exorcist.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah. But yeah, no, like it's just sort of like, and that's why I mean I ask permission. Like I don't go, are you okay? You know, like I just need to tell you this, you know. It's only I always ask permission first because I think that's polite to, you know, because some people don't believe in it, don't want to know. I had my friend used to date this guy and he was very religious in his own way, and I remember sitting at the kitchen table and I had this grandfather come around and apologise to him, and he blatant right refused, like he didn't acknowledge that. But I found out that his grandpa was actually quite cruel to him while he was on Earth, and his grandfather was coming through to apologise, but because of his beliefs, he denied that. So, you know, what I do is the devil's work, you know. I'm a channel for demons. Demons that actually help people find comfort and self-realisation. That's so evil, isn't it?
Have you ever had any encounters with what people would classify as evil spirits? As in, like...
I've had really stubborn ones. Ones that... Actually, I've had a couple of... Well, there was one which fascinated me quite a lot. It was this woman had what we would call an attachment. It wasn't necessarily attached to the house, but it was attached to her.
Mm.
And she said it has been with her for like since her 20s. She didn't know how it started, but it was this oppressive force. Like you walked in the room and it felt like it was like, she's mine, you can't have it. Like I could feel this like almost like this abusive relationship, you know, this macho, could feel that energy. So I've never encountered what people would consider really, really, really evil. Mm-hmm. In that sense. More so just aggravated human emotion, which, you know, usually sometimes takes its own form. But yeah, I've encountered like negative energies, but not necessarily what we call evil.
Yeah.
So, because yeah, I mean, sometimes if it's evil, if something happens, say if they get scratches or something, people automatically think it's like something evil, but it could be just someone that's pissed off. You know, people get pissed off, and so do spirits get pissed off. If you're coming into their house, they don't know you. Obviously, they're upset that you're in their house, and you're not listening to them. So what are they going to do? They're going to, you know. So, yeah. It'll be interesting too to see if the mic picks up on anything too.
Oh, I can't wait till like there's no audio where it doesn't work and it's just a conversation and Ghost is just talking in here.
Yeah, and like there's little sounds and stuff.
Oh,
so
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be fucking...
So, yeah. So yeah, maybe I'm just really good at a mentalist. Maybe I'm just really good, or maybe I am psychic. Maybe I'm gifted. You know. So, but it's all, like I said, it's all from experience. Oh.
Should we probably talk about like before we like end like the real whack jobs like in the psychic circles, because there definitely are.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that's what I mean. Like I I have a hard time believing in some of the concepts that floats around within the community of the spiritual community.
Yeah.
So I like to challenge that. So there's a thing of there's lots of different things that we go into, but we'll be here all night. But
what's your favourite one that you hate?
twin flames.
What's twin flames?
It's this idea that it's your ultimate other half that exists. It's your other half, like your literal soul's other half.
So like, is that like a love thing?
Well, a lot of people attribute it to love, and that's where I find it get really toxic. So you find that people who claim people are their twin flames, they will stay in a toxic relationship because they believe this person is their twin flame. Like, it's so unhealthy. Yeah. I think the concept is so unhealthy. I believe in soulmates. I like that idea. But to comprehend the idea of twin flames, no, I don't.
That could get possessive.
That is a really, I think it's a really unhealthy, healthy thing. But that's my opinion. Everyone else, like, I'll have people come to me for readings and talk about twin flames, and I will openly say, look, I don't believe that. I don't believe in that. But because you do, I will try my best to read for you in that way. Yeah. Because there is no judgment at all from Spirit. Spirit doesn't judge. I mean, I do, but Spirit doesn't. I always judge. Judging.
My favourites are the ones that, like, just, they use it as basically a correction for all the problems they've created for themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, those people, like, because you can tell, like, they're clinging on. You can see them clinging on. They're like, I'm trying to avoid.
But see, that's what I was talking about, challenging that idea and not using it as a crutch, because I think a lot of people use spirituality as a crutch, and I think it's really important. Like, I mean, I get up every day and that's all I think about. I think about new rituals to make and all that. Like, it's my world. But
is this your full-time job?
No, I work as a carer, support work on the side.
Oh, okay.
So, and then I'm also, like, carer by day, warlock by night, that sounds cool like that.
Sounds like a supernatural sort of thing.
Oh, well, everyone knows I'm a spook at work, so I can't hide it. People find out anyway. So it all depends what they believe in to how they react to it. Most people are just okay with it, and I love meeting like-minded people that are open with it. But being, psychic, I'm able to, often share messages with people and help them and guide them, which is the best thing ever. Being able to give people comfort and stuff. Like how I'm telling you that you need to trust yourself more. Like, how nice is that, Just to that stuff as well. Okay, yeah. No, I'm not going to do any more reading. I want to, but I'm not, because I know you don't want me to.
I'm on the fence.
Like, I really feel something to do with maybe a relationship that possibly didn't go well, and there's like this thought that they're like, if that there might be a potential for another relationship in the future, but there's like doubts about future relationships because of the past.
Why is it whenever you talk, like whenever you're doing a reading, I feel like something in my gut, like when you feel, I always got this, when you feel like really nervous, in like you get that weird feeling in your stomach. I always got that, like, whenever I'd go into a new shop or something. Yeah, I get that every time you start talking about something that you're reading off of me.
Yeah. Is that because...
It's almost like...
Is there truth to what I'm saying?
Yeah, but there's also... It also feels like it's something that's coming out of me. You know what I'm saying?
It's like you're being open, you're being vulnerable, that's what it is.
Yeah.
You by being vulnerable, you're allowing me...
No, but I mean, like, energy-wise, it almost feels like... Something's like being read off of
maybe your energy's speaking. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know. Like I said, everyone's experienced that, But I do feel, in regards to, like I was saying, I'm going back to that. There is potential for something good. You just have to move through. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So. Yeah. So. So yeah, like, I mean, it could be, but I think it's almost like that vulnerability. You're allowing your energy to interact with mine. The force, the waves. I don't know, whatever you want to call it. Sparkle Yum Yums. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I can really.
Sparkle
sense
Yum
Sparkle
Yums.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to
Have
say
you
that.
ever read so when you started getting this gift when you were young,
Mm.
so did you ever read stuff within your own house and like start reading perhaps your family members, or you could pick
No,
up
it's
on-
hard to read family members because you already know them. I mean, you can generally sense how they are. Like, I can sense how Matt is. Every time he steps out, I can, I sense things. But that's normal stuff. It's sort of being receptive to who they are. I don't think I've ever... I might say things, like, are you okay? It's more sort of that receptive, empathic, just caring. Yeah, nothing really... it was just sort of a general thing, Oh, Jake's feeling something, or someone's feeling something. It's just normal conversation, really. That's what it is. That probably doesn't answer your question, but
Sort of, yeah.
did I read things in my house? Like, did I sense things before they happened and all that sort of thing? Is that what you mean?
Or like, could you feel like spirits and energies within your own house?
Could
Could you do things like...
I'm one of those type of people that get so comfortable in their own energy that once I'm used to it, if there was a spirit there, I wouldn't be bothered by it because I'm in my own energy. If that makes sense.
I would say...
I know if something's foreign. Like, I know when there's a foreign energy present. I'm like, nah, that ain't my energy. Especially now that I've moved into my own house. Because in living in a house with multiple different energies, different people, different. Whereas now that I live in my own house with my own energy, I know when there's foreign energies. Like, when I go to mum and dad's house now, I can feel, like, the tension, the stress, compared to... And then when I go home, I can feel my own energy. But, like, sometimes there might be that foreign... Like, I can feel something looming over me, or... like this spirit or whatever energy is trying to talk to me. I literally had a conversation with a spirit in my bathroom via tapping. So one of my mentors taught me about this thing. So, when you hear like the house creak and whatever, right? Mm-hmm. But if you can get an intelligent response from a tap, that means that sort of debunks the idea that it's expansion. So I actually had a full conversation with a spirit via tapping on the wall in my bathroom. I felt this energy around me, I thought, and then I heard it just a real weird taps, like more than unusual. And I had this full-on conversation just with the, like, yes, no, doing the taps like that. And then it never happened again. It was just a spirit coming in and visiting.
Some people would burn the house down. You just continue to.
Yeah, it's just sort of like now. But I would probably burn the house down if I was like standing in my mirror and I saw a big fucking devil thing standing behind me. That I would freak. But
smudge stick, just
yeah. But yeah, no, I've had things like that. But it's just it's really sort of I'm like, oh, cool, awesome, because it's when things like that happen, it solidifies what's happening. I'm having an intelligent conversation. Like, I would commune with it and it would do what I tell it to do, So unless someone was standing on my roof from where the taps were coming from, or they were hiding in my roof, which I hope to hell. That's one of my worst fears, of having someone exist in my house without me knowing and just... Yeah, no thanks. Have you, like, when they live in the walls,
like
in the movies where they live in the movies? In the walls.
Yeah, people have found like they've noticed food missing during the night, and they're a bit like, I don't remember that. And then they found that people are like living in their roofs for years.
Like that movie, The Boy, where like the family, there's this doll, and the lady asks to like look after it, and they treat it. She has to treat it like a real, but it's actually, they think the doll's haunted at first, but it's actually a mental son that lives in the walls that actually moves the doll. So that's quite creepy.
As it gets darker and darker, the less likely I'm going to get to sleep with these conversations.
It's alright. You wouldn't have any. I mean, like, I have been sensing spirit, but that's because we're talking. But I don't sense any sort of.
No, this place is pretty chill.
Yeah, I don't sense any sort of. You could do with some maybe some wards, but that's about it.
Yeah.
You know, like charms or symbols,
Yeah.
wards.
Well, I'll get something in here. I'll just like, I don't know.
No,
Put
you
a
could get
Jesus
Caitlin.
Christ over
Yeah,
there or
get
something.
Caitlin. No, literally, you could get Caitlin to walk through reciting Bible verses, and that would do the trick.
Yeah, I tell you what I need. I need like I'll just go there with blood and just paint the walls with like
With my blood, yeah.
with like rune symbols and stuff. I'll just do that.
That's how they used to do it.
Yeah, I'll definitely feel protected.
Sacrifice a goat to Odin,
Yeah.
or to
Look,
Thor, or
if I was gonna follow any religion, it'd be like a Viking religion
Oh,
or
yeah.
some shit like that. Like that'd probably it. Like if I was gonna full on believe in gods.
I've petitioned Zeus via offering,
Yeah,
and for good weather,
yeah,
didn't fail to come through. So
yeah.
pretty good.
I say that to Caitlin too to piss her off. I'm like, by the power of Zeus, I swear to God, this is gonna happen. every time I talk to her, I love it.
Oh, we should have gotten Caitlin on it.
I'd
Would've
love
been-
to have a chat with her.
It would have been pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
but see, that's what I mean. It's sort of yeah.
Would have
It's
been
but that's what I mean. Like the book, the Bible itself, is essentially a book of spells and stories. You can use the words in the Bible in what some would call spell work, and they do things like hoodoo. And conjure, which was used a lot by the African Americans. It was all about survival. That's what hoodoo and conjure is. It's built on survival, you know, and they would use what was around them. So they'd use the Bible because that was what was prevalent, and they would use the Psalms and the verses for specific. But they wouldn't consider that witchcraft. It was more prayer.
Yeah.
You know? But again,
Well,
it comes down to perception.
if you go to certain churches within this town, they look like they're casting a fucking spell.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
seen people do this, saying Joshua over and over again. It's definitely like a.
Oh, that creeps me
It
out.
is very creepy. It's
What
very.
churches?
Oh, I don't want to say on here because then I'm going to be like, I'm friends with them.
Oh.
I've been to a few, but like.
Do.
Yeah, there's a few.
There's,
Like, I'll tell you later.
Okay.
I could probably just beep it out. Should I?
Oh well, it's a lot of effort.
Yeah,
Yeah,
don't,
that's
don't
right.
worry.
Footage.
Don't worry.
Oh,
about it.
yeah.
You could just type it on your phone and show me.
Definitely. Oh, yeah. I'm just typing on my phone. Where's my phone?
Uncle
Uncle
B? Uncle B?
B's church, yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Sort of like an old school church.
No, it's
It
the one that
sounds
you
very-
liked.
What? Riverside.
Yeah.
River Edge.
They-
isn't it?
Like-
River Edge. Yeah.
Yeah, like the way they behave when they do certain stuff is definitely like a fucking seance.
So, am I your first witch ever? Have you ever met a witch or a warlock before?
No, I've never done anything
Do you
like
want to go to the
this.
psychic fair tomorrow?
Oh, I was thinking about it.
Well, I feel honoured that I'm your first.
Yeah. There's
I'm
a bunch
mental,
of,
don't worry
there's
about
a
me.
lot of yeah. You meet some
Yeah,
that I'm
yeah.
like, you're definitely a mental case. But
Yeah.
you're an interesting one, Jay, because you're a weird, because you're insightful to yourself.
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm like, I don't know, I just like, yeah.
Yeah, because you meet a lot of old women. I'm like, you just had a bad relationship with your husband. You're just trying to cope, and now you just
Oh, yeah.
and now you
And
just
so-
sit there painting
And you
something.
will find that some readers will project their past experiences onto other people, especially if they've had like an abusive domestic violence relationship.
Yeah,
If someone comes to them for a love reading, they will literally spew that
Yeah.
crap out.
it's like, you know how fucking men are. They're shit. They're
Yeah,
pigs. There's
exactly.
a horrible man in your life. You're a gem. You belong here. Yeah.
And so then
Like
you
that.
then you have someone come to you, you have someone come to you and go, oh my god, I just had the worst reading, and then you have to sort of repair that too as well. Yeah. So
There you go. That's right.
So what do you consider yourself? What are you? What do you label yourself with, or do you label yourself at all?
With what? With
Religion, spirituality. I see religion and spirituality as two different things, but
I don't know at the moment. Like I was like an atheist for a long time.
Yeah.
Um,
there's nothing wrong with
didn't
that.
believe if I can't measure it with a like scientific measure, then it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Um,
Do whatever makes you happy. That's what I say.
but I sort of accept that there are things that happen that we can't explain through like scientific measure, and that you have to sort of start looking at, well, what can explain it?
Yeah.
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 And so then that led me down the thing of, well, I agree that ghosts are 100% real.
Because you
Because
obviously
I've experienced
that.
them.
Yeah.
Everyone has experienced them. If everyone's got this collective experience, well, you kind of can't just go, science says it isn't real, too bad. So then I'm like, well, if ghosts are real, and you start looking at religions talking about ghosts, well then most likely most religions are real, and then that's kind of where I'm at as to whether.
No, I was just curious. Curious.
I just see it as like everyone's just talking about the same thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
They're just like...
I actually felt quite offended when you said that the church was similar to what I do. It kind of is, but it isn't.
Yeah, like, essentially they're trying to express the same thing. They've just got this different, like, way of doing it. And like,
I get very offended very easily by the slightest of things, and I let people know.
it's all because of our family too. Like, we've got, like when my mum's side, they're very Christian, and, like, the way that they would, like, interpret their religion and then place it upon you as well and then treat you...
But it's their coping mechanism. From how you can see it is their coping mechanism. It's more, that's what it is. It's not sort of about empowering you. And that's the thing that I struggle with Christianity, is that there is this focus on having to save people and to devote yourself entirely to one source and one being and all that. But where is the self-development? Where is the minding your own goddamn fucking business and living your own life? Instead of going out saving souls because you believe it's your mission and that God is speaking through you to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I just think that's very toxic. I think that's unhealthy. I think if you practice your beliefs, you shouldn't push it on other people. You can discuss it, but don't do it in a way that you're... See, the way that I would have a conversation with a Christian, like, they would sit there, and I know because of the experience... They would sit there and believe that they are entirely right. Whereas me, I'm on the precipice of thinking, well, maybe my truth is my truth. It real for me. I don't claim the truth. I don't claim my beliefs to be the truth. Whereas they confess that there is the truth and it's the only way. And that's what I have trouble with. Because I believe if anyone claims to know the truth, they're a liar, because we do not know the truth.
Or delusional.
We have our own personal truths, but there is no one truth. There can be a collective agreed truth, but, there is not one truth. And that would set any Christian off. Me saying that, it would set them off, because... religion, Christian, Jesus is the truth, the way, the light, but it's so consumed. But that's the only thing I have a problem with, is that sort of idea that anything else is evil. But if a new religion's coming in, of course you've got to kick out the old. Everyone else is wrong, of course, and if Jesus, I actually believe Jesus was a person, but I don't believe it in the way that the Christians view it. If we think of it the way the Christians do it, so God sent down a boy through immaculate conception, which I think is absolute bullshit. You're allowed to have sex, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, demonizing women. And again, I don't want this to be hate. This is just me expressing my opinions, and feel free to challenge it if you want to. Yeah. But, he is sent down, that's meant to be almost God in form, to sacrifice himself to himself. How egocentric is that? He sent God forms. He's God formed Son. He is of God. Jesus is God almost in human form, to be sacrificed, planned apparently to be sacrificed to God, for God.
Do you know? Like, there's a lot of contradictions like that. Like, we're created from the image of God, so we're basically a replication of God's image, and also as Jesus. So we had another replication of ourselves.
But then again, sorry. Yeah,
because if he's the Son of God, we're the son and daughters of God too.
Exactly.
And so
how is he any better?
And so us? In his sacrifice, this is just another example of God himself wanting to kill himself, saying, "Hey, I did this for you guys." I'm like, "Where you, dude? Why does it even matter?"
That same story plays out through different stories and different beliefs. They had the story of Prometheus, who stole the flame to give to humanity, knowing full well something would happen. He ended up being pinned up in a cave and had his was it liver picked out every morning by a vulture. It's the same idea of sacrifice. It's the same story. Even Zeus flooded humanity, the Great Flood, similar to Christianity.
Before that, it was Babylonians, wasn't it? And before the Ethiopians and stuff. The Babylonians had the exact same thing with Gilgamesh and all that.
So obviously you can probably hear like a faint tone of like frustration in my voice. It's only because I've been disappointed and let down by people that claim to be Christians. And I claim that most Christians are hypocrites. They claim to confess love, but they do it in a way that's unrealistic, because if they claim to love you, they only do it in a way because they believe your belief is false and theirs is right. So how is that love? That's false love to me. Sorry. That's just my...
Have you heard about the story about Jesus actually came from Tibet? Like he was hiking from the mountains and came down?
Well, I have a friend who practices the Vedic, yogi Vedic traditions, and apparently in these ancient texts there's actually someone that fits this description of Jesus that went and learnt the ways of the yogis. So after he was crucified, he didn't actually die, but he actually snuck away and travelled east or something like that. And then I've also heard another one that Jesus was actually and his miracles were just different, magicians that performed different rites, and the miracles were feats of magic. That's another one that I've heard.
Yeah. Well, what was that thing that we said in the last podcast? History is somewhat false.
Yeah, history is written by the winners.
Yeah.
Always.
Not by the losers.
Yeah.
And if someone's speaking the truth, let's get rid of them, because they're not fitting with our beliefs and stuff. So, yeah. Is it really safe to have another Christian in the room while we're talking? Oh no, actually it's healthy.
Well, it depends how you approach it. If you approach it like that with Caitlin, it'd probably be a bit aggressive.
Yeah.
I'd imagine a fist.
But I'm expressing my I'm expressing my views and letting you know that I've been let down. Yeah. And I think in some way that I do have a valid point.
Yeah. Well, not every Christian is the same.
Yeah, exactly. But most of them.
There's a key theme.
Yes.
Yeah. But not all of them are the same. Yes. I've definitely met some very nice Christians who have very nice belief systems, and I've met some very deluded Christians who are very deluded in their religion. I
think Christianity evolves as well, looking at the difference between one side of my family is very... my mum's side is very Christian, very old school.
Yeah.
Anglican church type. You go to church and it's absolutely boring and you can't pay attention to what's going on and that kind of thing. And so we went to a different church. We went to River Edge, obviously, because it's very young. It's very full of energy and
hip for Jesus.
Yeah, hip for Jesus, which is, when you're young is a lot more...
Don't deny it, man, it's the truth.
Yeah, it's a lot more interesting, but I noticed growing up that the message that they would preach versus the very stereotypical, and when you talk to someone who's from River Edge talking about how Jesus applies in their life, which is a bit more progressive, but then talking to someone who's that old school, anti-gay, very traditional, very... I think it's an evolving...
yeah, well,
I think it's an evolving interpretation, and I think a lot of those hateful stuff that comes out of religions, I think, is more of a reflection of people's worldviews, as well as perhaps the governments who wrote... Because the books, the Bible was written by the government. It was approved by the king, and then there's, the king's version of, was it King James or whatever, his version of the Bible, which is...
He basically created the Anglican Church
King
so that
Edward
he could get...
Yeah, so he could divorce his wives.
Yeah, and what they want is acceptable, so that gets put into the Bible as... snuck in.
See, even in the Bible, they have "Thou shalt not suffer a witch to live," but apparently it was, I think it was "Thou shalt not suffer a pharmacist to live," which is someone that would work with herbs and stuff, or a poisoner. "Thou shalt not suffer a poisoner to live." So, but most witches use herbs, so that was sort of directed at, witch, it's a very powerful word, so if you can use that, you know. But it has been chopped and changed, and yeah.
I think it'll continue to evolve as well, like the understanding of, to me, like God as a concept, more than like I align as like an all-being God as more of like a interdimensional, all-knowing energy, rather than like what this one person that watches you at all times of the day. Like, no, God has time for that bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, God's not going to care that you like going out and partying a little bit too much in your 20s, or that you were a shitty husband but you know, saved a lot of people through your work or something like that. God's not going to care about that. God's not going to care that, you know, you, I don't know, whatever.
Yeah.
Whether it was, you know, you're going to hell because you're gay, or whether you're going to hell because of this or that. I don't think God cares about any of that. I think it's more of like a totality. So like a looking at all of who you are, rather than like one sin sends you to hell.
Yeah. And I think too, when it comes to sins as well, I think we can really use it, you know, like people take it literally and it's like head down, like you shouldn't do these things. But I think everything sort of happens in moderation. And if we sin in moderation, we're just living our own lives.
I think it's been part of being human.
Yeah, exactly.
I think if you believe in the idea of God loves you unconditionally and God made you in his image, while he made us flawed, it's about choosing to do as much of the right thing as we can, rather than focusing on every little wrong thing that we did along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting.
But I think it gets used in like a very, I don't know what the word is, very like authoritarian way, I guess. To be like, if you do this one thing, you'll go to hell instantly, so that it controls people.
Yeah,
and controls the society that
control as well. Let's tell them, if they worship any god besides mine, that you're going to die in a fiery pit of hell, and let's actually like mentally and physically abuse them to a point where they submit. Yeah, because that's what it kind of is. It's kind of like mental abuse and, you know, psychological abuse too.
Yeah. And it's fear as well.
Fear, hunger. Yeah.
And fear keeps everyone in line. It's the easiest way of making people do what you say. It's to make them terrified of you.
100%. Yeah.
You've been very quiet, Matt.
I'm just letting you guys talk. I have nothing to add.
No.
Yeah, we could probably find heaps of topics.
Yeah. Well, even like I just sort of like, once I start going, like I can't stop, and that's what I mean. Like it's just word vomit. It just keeps coming out.
Yeah, it's great.
So
it's great.
I will start, like, I go into a tangent because as my family know, I have an issue. No, I have an issue with the Christian religion. It's fault. So it's sort of like you flip a switch and it's like, right, here we go, and then the family goes, oh, Jack's going again, you know.
You see two objects that are like that, and you're just like,
well,
the corner of like, you're like, it's a fucking cross.
It's like,
it's everywhere.
Oh no, it's it's to the point where someone goes, I'm a Christian, and I go, okay, I don't want to be friends with you. Like, literally, like, it's like that bad. So, I mean, I'm open to it, but it's generally, I have this like trauma, I guess, from it. You know, like I said, I used to be like, love watching witch movies. I would ask my nana why a witch turned off the lights while she was doing the ritual. The movie was Bed Knobs and Broomsticks, right? She said, oh, they're servants of Satan. They, you know, they work in the dark. That's why they work in the dark, because they're servants of the devil. Turn that off and put that away, you know? Like, it's just sort of like... Yeah. Oh, well, I did ask her a question, so she did say it. Maybe I was curious.
How many Christian monks do you think worked in the dark? Nearly all of them. They worked in dark temples.
Oh, they've got to give them... Like, seriously, I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, no, I think it can get a bit deadly, so that's why I'm just forewarning myself that I just be careful what I'm saying, because I'm being recorded too.
Yeah, and they might listen. We actually have viewers in Belgium.
Yeah.
So what?
We have a viewer in Belgium. He's probably got a VPN. He's probably Australian, but yeah.
But yeah, so yeah.
It's interesting how you're both spiritual, but in a different way.
Yeah, that's something that Chrissy would point out.
Like Matt's very his spirit is very, like, his spirituality is very physical. I find like Matt's always about, you know, lifting weights, martial arts, that kind of thing growing up. And in itself, like, I could go on forever about how martial arts is an expression of spirituality in terms of it's a mastery of, like...
Well, I think at its core, really, it comes from that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's a mastery of improving yourself physically, mentally, and your well-being and that kind of thing.
Well, they often say the true goal of a magician is to find control within rather than without. Because to manipulate outside themselves shows a lack of control, you know, within. So that's what the true magician seeks to do, is find that harmony within themselves and that control. Because if they can control what's inside, they can control what's outside of them. And how, you know, they react and all that sort of thing. So that's kind of interesting, you know, with karate, you know, it's that discipline, structure, you know.
Yeah.
And by doing that, you can harness yourself and know yourself.
Yeah.
And I guess, you know, in each way people try to do that. Like, you know, I think it's fantastic.
I've definitely, like, because I've been doing it since I was like, well, Dad started with it. Dad started me into it.
Yeah.
All that stuff, and then eventually evolved.
Because, yeah, you were really into, like, you know, the especially with, like, Naruto and stuff like that, really.
I was obsessed with Japanese Bushido and stuff like that. Like, there was a time when I was a kid, I was just obsessed with it. Like, I really wanted to be a samurai, like, ninja, fucking whatever. And
I think you could be a samurai in society.
yeah, like, as in, like, embody the principles and philosophy of a samurai in modern day. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. I think it's harder. You can't, you know, go around with a sword and stuff in society anymore, but you can embody the same principles in everyday life.
Yeah, which is something like, you know, it's not like talking about philosophies and stuff. Like, there's one quote that I really like from Epicurus, I think it is, where he says, like, you never discuss your philosophies, just embody it. So, like, that is something that, like, I want to achieve, is actually not have to explain myself. I just embody who I am, which is what I was really trying to do.
And I think that's what everyone should do.
Yeah.
I reckon, you know, if you can embody yourself, and I think once you feel truly content within yourself and you embody your belief without that need to feel validated, I think you've reached a point where you're actually,
Yeah, because I guess in the context, like, it does sound corny, but, like, my spirituality, I'm essentially a warrior in modern times, because, like, I've done martial arts, I've learned how to do this, and I'm working my way through, like, trying to achieve something of self-control and discipline through it, and actually try to self-actualize myself through that, which is really a principle of, like, the knights through, like, Bushido. And, like, it sounds corny as shit, but, like, that's probably something you can, like, do an analogy towards, if that makes sense. Or is that corny as fuck?
Huh?
Is that
Yeah.
cool? Yeah.
No, not really.
Yeah. Well, that's probably as you're saying. It's
there's nothing wrong with that. That's your belief.
Yeah, because I don't really believe it. I just do what I do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't believe anything.
I think for people to understand that they need to have a label.
Yeah.
And see, the reason that I did call myself a warlock, I mean, that doesn't represent all of me, but it's one aspect of me. And people need something to label so that they can focus on it. Because if I'm all over the place saying this, people need... I think people like having something to... Obviously, no one can put me in a box, but I think people like to have that, you know. And even with, you know, the idea of a warrior and stuff, that, you know, that label helps you to focus on, kind of describe what you're going for.
And it allows people to understand you.
Yeah.
As
Like,
well.
you're a doctor. Like, oh, okay, they're a doctor. They know this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not just a doctor. They can be a husband. They can be, you know.
So what would you label your spirituality then?
Sorry?
What would you label your spirituality then?
I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you were saying before that you consider yourself an atheist, but
Not anymore. Not anymore.
Yeah, not anymore. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, me and Matt have talked about practicing like Shinto as well, and believing in Shinto as like a base level of spirituality in terms of like
Being in
there's
kami.
no inbuilt right and wrong. People are fundamentally good, and we should all try to seek to live in harmony with one another and nature and be good people and that kind of thing. But above that, I'm not 100% sure. Like, I 100% believe that there's a place after this. I'm pretty sure. Like, I think that there is, even if that's just to go outward, just whoosh, and then we go into another dimension, and, you know, there's that next dimension, and we just join the energy that is, you know, everything and all around us.
Yeah.
I think that there's definitely, like, you know, spirits and that kind of stuff around us, and I don't know, outside of things like, you know, I believe in what goes around comes around and that kind of basic karma sort of stuff, but I don't know if I could put a label on it just yet.
Don't necessarily have to either.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be labels.
But yeah, what I was talking about, you know, to label something gives people that structure to understand. But you don't have to label it. You can just be you, and there's nothing wrong with that.
So you said you were a Reiki
Practitioner,
yeah. So me and Matt have talked about Reiki in the past, and he described it as healing with your hands, but Matt doesn't 100%. He said that there's some, it's like a Japanese healing thing where you use, like, energy through your hands to heal.
It's basically a system of energy healing that was founded in Japan by Master Yushi. And he's
so what type of things can you heal? Like physical or...
So it's more so, the idea is that... I didn't even hear that. Sorry.
Matt said cancer.
Gosh, no, I'd never claim to be able to do that. So Reiki is a system of energy healing that helps your body to heal.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Helping
helping to introduce the universal flow into your body to help stimulate the healing process. Yeah, you have to experience it to understand it. Like, I mean, some people find it beneficial in terms of mentally and physically. Some people claim to, you know, you can't claim to cure things, but it can help to reduce the effect of pain and stuff like that. Yeah, it's really good for that. Just an overall well-being. It's good stuff. It's good. Yeah. And then we get the chicken heads out and sacrifice them and wash ourselves in the blood.
We could do that. What would that fix?
Nothing. We don't actually do that.
Have something to eat.
Huh?
Have something to eat.
I'm not.
Imagine the population control if everyone did human sacrifices. We'd have no issues.
Oh God, that's always scared me, the idea. But even then, people thought human sacrifice was an honour to do that.
Yeah, people volunteer.
To be like, but I reckon there would have been a psychopath priest that would have just loved a reason to just kill people.
Do you know there's actually a hypothesis why psychopaths exist? It's actually because in those sort of times, it's very violent. You need somebody who doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
You need somebody who can kill somebody and don't care.
Yeah.
Like, psychopaths are very valuable in those sort of environments. That's why you'd have your berserkers, you'd have, like, fucking savage, like, the Scots, like, savage warriors, like, that are known for, like, not giving a fuck. They're psychopaths. Like, there's a value to a psychopath in that sort of term.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you talk about that in war, about sort of the best soldier in war, and that they're very set on, you know, they're going to kill anyone that's on the other team.
Yeah.
Probably makes them a bad person in a way, but it makes them a very, very good asset.
Yeah.
To be able to, you know...
Makes them a good soldier.
Yeah.
Sacrifice actually means to make sacred. An altar means place of sacrifice. So you go to an altar to make sacred. So yeah, sacrifice doesn't necessarily have to be blood. It could be anything. And we all have to make sacrifices in our lives in order for things to change. So yeah, so sacrifices, doesn't always have to be. Sorry, I probably just went on a tangent, little flow there. But yeah.
What else you want to know, Chris?
Do you believe that there have been powerful witches that have influenced human events? And do you think that these people, like, there are hidden societies where you would end up with, like, witches and warlocks and stuff
Do you guys
gathering?
want water? By a chance as well.
No, I'm
No,
good. I'm good. Man.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm gonna go get some to eat after I need to
Okay,
go
cool.
to the car.
Anyway, keep going.
Do you think?
Well,
like,
that's a hard topic. I think. Oh, I don't know. Maybe. I believe collectively, if people have an intention, they can affect things. Like if there's enough people with the intention. I think if it was done by one person, they'd have to be pretty powerful to be able to influence.
Yeah,
that.
that's what I'm saying. Is there like perhaps hidden like secret societies that are going around now, using like rituals and spells and perhaps that kind of stuff?
Don't know. I can't confirm. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. I know. Talking about the Golden Dawn in regards to the tarot. If there were societies like that, there's bound to be other societies or cults or covens, and to utilize those abilities and powers in whatever way they see fit. So it's possible. So yeah, no, I was just sort of like, I don't know. But yeah, if things like that exist, then of course there's probably people maybe attempting to do that, possibly. Open to process. Yeah. We could also do a seance as well. That's what we could do. We can also do seance as well as ghost hunting as well.
What's a seance?
Yeah, that's not doing my house.
Okay. But I'll close the doors and everything.
Yeah.
What's a seance?
It's basically calling spirits to communicate.
Oh,
I don't want that.
we could do that. We could do that.
Can we do that? Is outside or indoors the best place to do a seance?
Indoors, probably.
I'm sorry, Matt, but we're gonna have to sacrifice.
I'm going to sacrifice my house. Fuck.
That's right.
What if I got us a tent?
That's right. No,
The tent
that's
One's
right.
a rental. I can get rid of it pretty easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fear associated with seances and communicating with spirits as well. But it's no different to me sitting here and communing with. But it depends how you do it. Like if you go, hello, anyone here? You want to come and talk? Then you'll get Joe Blow from other side of the dimension coming over and
There was so many
writing devil on the board, or even just
Yeah, there's like that the warnings that people gave about Ouija boards and stuff like that.
Well, do you know though they were very popular back in the 60s and 70s, I think, don't correct me,
It was a
but
French
back then.
thing, wasn't it?
What?
It was a French thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, I've read it, but basically they were very popular. They're sort of like a parlor game, like a toy, and they only became negative after, I think it was The Exorcist, where in that movie they actually use a board, and that's how she becomes possessed by a demon. And it was only then that the stigma started to develop from that. And see, the way you work with spiritual things, the board is just a board. It's the people who are the conduit. So if you can imagine a group of people coming in, they're already scared, they've all got these preconceptions of what might happen. What do you think is going to happen if they tap into it? Of course they're going to have something negative come in. Or it could be their subconscious as well. The spirit boards that can, because you're touching it, it can be your subconscious, or it could be spirit, but usually the negative experiences come from someone that's abusing it and think it's funny and don't respect it, compared to people that are actually respecting it, know what they're doing. Not that I claim to be an expert, but yeah. Yeah, but it was apparently only when The Exorcist come out that
It became an issue.
it became this stigma that they were evil and yeah, good old Catholic Church, eh? I reckon they had a bit of a play on that one too.
Do you know there are still people who believe in elves? There's in Iceland they believe in elves and goblins.
Even in Ireland they still do.
Yeah, and fairies and fays.
Apparently there was this tree that they were trying to build, like a sacred tree, and they were going to cut it down and build a road through it. people, they ended up stopping work and built a road around it, because anyone that attempted to, they had like people die, accidents happen.
Like the curse of the like the pharaohs and stuff.
Yeah, from the tombs.
Yeah, people who open the tombs and then they end up dying.
I haven't heard any. Is there any like stories about people actually dying from opening the tombs?
Yeah, like the one with Tutankhamun, that like a bunch of people die.
It was probably just disease from the tombs.
Or like weird ones, like 40-year-olds having heart attacks who are in perfect health.
Yeah.
Which can happen, but it's just weird stuff like that.
Yeah, weird.
Or great misfortunes. All of a sudden they have multiple. They're really successful, and then all of a sudden ended up a failure.
Well, Nicolas Cage actually is a big believer in the supernatural, and he actually...
Of course, Nicolas Cage is.
Yeah, of course. I heard that in New Orleans, he actually... Well, this is someone told... He had a psychic told him, because I think he had something happen. He had a curse put on him, apparently, and he had to build this monument to avert the curse, apparently, and so he spent a lot of his money on doing this, so to build this curse reversing thing. I don't know if it worked or anything, but yeah, no, he believed that it was cursed and because of something that was happening. So
the Church of Scientology. What's the guy who's big?
Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John Travolta, Tom Cruise.
What do you reckon about the old Church of...
I think that's a cult, similar to the Jehovah's Witness. There's a show...
Yeah, or the Mormons.
Yeah, it's all a cult, as far as I'm concerned.
Someone just making money off of...
Yep, and emotionally manipulating intimidation, and it's a cult. But there can be good cults, but there's just a negative sim. Like they had anyway. In old days they used to call the cult of Isis, like the goddess Isis, or the cult of Hathor. It was kind of a positive thing, but now we consider cults to be these, messed up things, which they usually are.
Imagine a cult doing good things. That'd be such a weird thing.
This is our cult. We do good things. Yeah. We help people.
Yeah.
So what do you think of people seemingly engaging in spiritual acts or negative spiritual acts, but for jokes? So for example, I know of this girl and her friends, they call their friendship group the cult, and they get they're not spiritual at all, and they carve they get blood and put pentagrams on them and write 666 on themselves, and have animal heads and all this crazy stuff, and they party but they're not spiritual at all. It's almost like a fun party game.
They know what they're doing. As much as they claim not to, they know what they do. They have a power in it. They found a power in it. There's fear in it. They know that they have some sort of power in that.
It draws social attention.
Absolutely. People, it can be attention, it can be power or fear, all those sort of things. I don't give a shit, just as long as you're not hurting anybody.
Yeah.
Or if you, if they threaten my brother, I would be having none of it.
Yeah.
If they threaten some sort of, I'd be like, nah. And my brother knows that I would.
I've got a witch on my side always.
That's not fair.
As long as you're not hurting anyone, or it's so funny because a lot of people that are into death metal bands and stuff, right? Yeah, but when it comes to the actual real stuff, they shit themselves. They'll be full on fucking masks and blood and holding up goat skulls and the masters of filth or whatever bullshit they talk about, but when it comes to the actual stuff, they have no idea. And I think that's stupid. Even people that walk around with symbols on their jackets that they don't even know what they mean. You know what I mean? Because it's cool. I can't wear anything that I don't understand. I would never. Everything that I wear, in terms of symbolism, I know what it means. I'm not wearing something that I don't know what it means.
Yeah, you see a lot of people now who've adopted a lot of the Norse religion.
Yeah.
They got them all tattooed on them. They don't know what they mean. They
Yeah.
have them on them.
We'll see too, like a lot of like I call them the heavy metal heads. Like a lot of them are into Norse paganism, but then they also love a lot of the like Luciferianism. So you'll have like the mixture of like the Norse, and then they'll have like the sigil of Lucifer and all that sort of thing. Which is I've got nothing wrong, but as long as they know what it is, you know. Yeah. That's what I mean. I giggle at these people that I can't understand. I can understand why they listen to the music because that's how they deal with internalized stuff. Because I think you have to be in a really dark place to enjoy that. But that's my own opinion.
I enjoy heavy metal.
Yeah,
I'm not in a dark place when I do.
I don't mind now death metal.
Yeah, like the screamo and stuff like that.
Oh, it depends on the type of screamo.
Like real, like
I like grunge. Like really, like I'm on a Marth. You know them.
No.
I love them. They're pretty good.
All I'm saying is I just think most people that are really into it,
yeah,
there's obviously something going on there on a mental level.
Yeah.
So yeah, to answer your question, as long as they're not hurting anybody and they're not bothering me,
yeah,
I don't care.
Yeah.
Or anyone that I love and protect. So yeah, because I get very protective. So yeah.
We're gonna have to do a seance, mate.
We're gonna have to do a seance, and we're gonna have to record it. The camera's gonna go all fuzzy. Shh.
Have you done one before?
Yeah, but not. It's sort of like trying it because we use the spirit board, but it's sort of like trying to develop it, get it to work, and so we might have to have it. We'll bring the board out. Might have to come around to my place.
Yeah.
Into my room. I have a room that I have my readings and stuff in, but we've also done the seance in there as well. But yeah, that's cool.
Do you remember that time when we had the Tibetan monks come around to Mildura?
Yeah.
When did you spend time with them? Did you did you have any conversations with them at all?
No, I didn't, but I had an experience with them.
Yeah.
So I was asked to gift something to them, and I was standing next to them while they were blessing everything that we'd bought from their shop.
Yeah.
And I couldn't stop. I had these shakes. It wasn't like bad shakes, but it was kind of like, when you're cold, but you also, that excited shakes. Yeah. They took a group picture of us, and it was developed like a few weeks later. And there's this like shot. There's like this spirit standing behind me, and then it moves, and then it stands in the group picture with all of us. So like I was feeling that spirit. It actually was standing with me, and then it moved. I always remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool.
You definitely do feel something when you're with people who are that sort of like, their life is spirituality.
Yeah,
like
you feel it in their aura.
Yeah.
Their energy.
Like when I had my prayer wheel and stuff like that, and like they tell you like their purpose and like what it means, and like, and then they use it and you hear them doing their chants and like their mantras and stuff, like in their language, and then their throat singing and
Sanskrit.
Yeah. You can definitely feel it.
Absolutely.
Alright, it's been 2.5 hours, I think. You got another list of questions, or you're just answering text?
No, I'm just telling my mate I've been playing video games tonight.
No, okay.
It's getting too intense.
Yeah.
So that was like, yeah.
I mean, we can always do another one, and we can focus specifically on a topic and go from there if that helps.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did pick a topic this time.
We can do a part 2.
A part 2.
Yeah. But we could probably do it. No, not tomorrow. You'd probably be exhausted tomorrow.
I'll probably be buggered.
Yeah, I'll be at the show tomorrow night getting...
Yeah, next week sometime.
Drunk. We've got a lot of podcasts.
We do, and that's good. I'm happy because
we have a lot of
potential guests.
Yeah, a lot of stuff too.
And I'll work on the studio tomorrow, I think, a bit. It's looking good. It's going to be good. I'm really excited to have that
working.
Where's
the studio?
In the shed. Oh. You'll like it. I just got to make sure it's cool because it's going to be hot.
Yeah, you got to get an aircon in there
during summer.
Just like a small one. Yeah.
We will die, Matt.
It will be fucking stinky in there.
We will die.
And then I'll have to communicate with your spirits.
Yeah. And we'll all be pissed off at Matt.
Yeah.
Like, fucking Matt.
I'm sensing
Matt
some irritation.
Matt would have gone on to like the next realm.
Yeah.
Matt would have just reached like.
And all his mates
we'll,
are like,
we'll be like, I'm like, fucking Matt.
like you guys, they'll be like, I'm sensing a big group of angst over this side, and Matt's over this side. Matt, what are you doing? And there's this grin on his face.
Instant transmission.
Zoom.
Matt's
Matt
trying
has
to do like
departed.
dodgy electrical workout in the
Yeah.
shed that we all die.
Fuck.
I always try and imagine what I'd do if I was a ghost, what I'd do. I'd probably haunt people for sure. I'd be one of those people that'd probably like to move things and just for shits and giggles.
I'd just go walk about. I'd just walk everywhere if I was a ghost. Or whatever they do, float. Walk.
Get on a plane.
Yeah,
fly
just,
on another
just,
country.
fly. Just do everything I didn't.
Time to go. Yeah, no, that'd be cool.
That'd be-
The idea to fly and experience, that'd be cool. Like spirit flight, that's something we can talk about.
Spirit flight.
Not that I've done spirit flight effectively, but I
What
think
is spirit flight?
spirit flight is basically essentially taking your soul and you fly with your soul,
That'd be pretty cool.
or astral projection.
Astral projection. I
Yeah.
told Matt to watch Insidious.
That is the most weirdest concept of the afterlife, but it's
Yeah.
cool though. I like it.
Insidious is a terrifying movie.
Yeah.
That movie, yeah.
I once finished watching it. You know how there's this whole thing with opening doors and closing doors and all that sort of thing? You know, in the movie anyway. I'd finished, Matt must have heard me, had my door shut. I'd just finished watching one of the Insidious movies. I walk up the door and he's just standing there smiling at me. Who does that? He does.
Matt does. There's that smile too.
Yeah, it's just that.
Yeah. That,
He
that
he
movie-
knew
those-
what he was doing.
Yeah,
he
those
knew.
movies are. You should watch them sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe not now, but yeah.
I was terrified.
Maybe you should watch them now, and then we could all like hang out, and then you and I can have an anime marathon because we won't sleep.
Yeah. That's an
Yeah.
option.
Paranormal Activity. Have you seen that one?
Paranormal Activity was the first ever. So my dad's a horror fan, but he doesn't like the ghost ones because he thinks they're full of bullshit. He likes the like true crime, like Saw. Not that Saw's true crime, but like when it's a person doing the crime.
I'm a found footage fan, so that usually involves a lot of ghosts and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
I think the 80s was a good time for horror, in my opinion. If you ever have you seen Hellraiser?
No.
Please, if you don't mind a bit of gore, like I don't like gore for the sake of gore, but I think Hellraiser personally is a masterpiece. I think, because I think it's so clever. I mean, it makes me uncomfortable in a good way.
Yeah. Yeah, Paranormal Activity was like the first ever scary movie that I watched. And I watched it on an iPod, like an old iPod Touch when they're like this big on a tiny screen. And I was like shaking and terrified for like a day or two.
I had 2 whole weeks where I was petrified. I watched it in a cinema with loud music, and apparently they use subliminal music, tones and sounds to create fear. And the whole time, so everything, you know, when a door slams, it was 10 times louder. Oh, I couldn't just remember, but now I own all of them. I love them.
Yeah, they're they got worse as time went on.
Oh, they did, absolutely. And the
Like the
latest
first
one, oh my god.
The first one was terrifying to watch because it was very realistic. It wasn't like they were like going into, what was the one where they're like going into like a portal and all this crazy stuff?
That was the last one, I think. The number...
Got a big extreme.
The first one was
Dimension.
the first one was like nothing was happening and they were just recording, and then some weird stuff would happen, like a door would open and you know, then they'd hear something go bump in the night, and yeah.
My favourite one's the marked ones, so that's kind of like a spin-off from, it's like outside of the main story. That's my favourite one.
I don't remember which one that one was. There's a lot.
It's like they're like Latino guys, and
I think I remember.
the witch like lives under. There's like a witch, a bruja that lives under under them or something like that. Yeah, no, it's really cool. But yeah, no, if you ever want to talk movies, love movies, open to discussion.
Is that a movie?
What?
Open to discussion. Is that
No, I'm open.
No,
to
podcast
movies.
about over
I was
So
like,
like Blair Witch
I was like-
Project, masterpiece. I think
Oh,
that's
yeah,
amazing. Just the ability to be able to scare people and create a whole storyline
with a phone
made
camera.
people think that this was real. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think that's so good.
Do you know what I had? Like, I was horrified after watching was It, even though it's like that's not realistic, but like
Which one?
Yeah.
The new one
the
or the
new
old
one, because
Right.
I could not look into a fucking gutter
Yeah.
for such a long time because I was like, well, it was when I was doing my newspaper deliveries. I was like, fuck no, because I'm walking
Yeah.
around doing it because I had to walk the route. With it.
I just want to punch it. Same with Chucky. Chucky
Yeah.
don't scare me.
Yeah.
Punch it. Punch
I-
him. Kill
yeah.
him. Kick him.
Yeah.
Chucky would be the easiest one to stop.
Oh yeah.
Sinister.
I think I've
You
seen that one.
Sinister.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That's the one with. It's in the video. It's in the film.
Yeah, it's about Bagul or something. Like an evil. Is it an evil pagan spirit
I think so.
that goes around preying on the fear of people, and then it takes the children because it gives it some sort of like vitality or something like that.
Yeah.
I forget exactly what it is, but that was the scariest film supposedly growing up. That was like the one that no one wanted to watch. Conjuring.
That was they're right. I think when they had the second Conjuring and they had the nun in it, that one. Have you seen the second Conjuring?
I've seen them all.
So you know the nun thing.
Yeah.
So in the second one when it was first appearing, right, that was more creepy then. But when you go and watch the Nun, the
Yeah,
actual
the Nun,
movie,
so-
it wasn't as scary. In that, it was far more creepy. That scared me, like this thing, you know.
Yeah. What generally makes something scary is when you can't actually see it that often.
Yeah, and it just comes up every now and again. And I think
Yeah.
that's why Paranormal Activity spooked me that much, is because you can't see it, and your mind can, like, if you sat there and
that's
tried
like
to.
yeah.
If you envision like just a creepy old naked man or something, it wouldn't be as scary, would it?
Yeah.
If that's what you envisioned.
Yeah. That's
Like-
why Jaws was a masterpiece because you didn't see the shark until right at the end.
Yeah.
It's about building suspense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so even with like the Blair Witch Project, you don't actually see a witch. You don't see anything. You only hear things. You know.
Then the camera going black at the end.
Yeah. Just that, and the guy standing in the corner, like there's this unknown force that, you know, creepy. So, but yeah, no, there's a lot of different, like, I think half of my movie collection is all horror and ghosts and witches and vampires and werewolves. That's most of what I watch. And anime, don't forget anime. Just throw some anime in there.
Yeah. All of Matt's is anime.
Oh yeah, well, as you can see through my entire collection on the wall there. They're in the drawer. I actually got rid of all my anime collection. I had like a huge collection of Naruto.
You could have given it to me.
I could've.
could have watched it.
Could have got rid of that.
I think I recently bought the third collection of Bleach, and after a while you get into it, but then after a while you sort of get really bored because it's one of those ones that just sort of, it's kind of like One Piece.
Yeah, they restarted it. And like it sounds like it's getting fucking good near the end. Like everyone's getting like you're seeing everyone's bunkai and stuff. It's getting real weeb.
I don't even, yeah. I'd probably love to be in that. I love that realm. Have you seen Bleach?
No.
Oh.
I have watched one whole anime.
Demon
Demon Slayer.
Oh, that's a
And
good
then
one. That's
I'm
okay.
starting to watch Naruto.
Yeah. See, I don't think I remember the first time I saw Naruto, it was from a magazine, and there was a CD with like all these new things on it, and that was one of the episodes on it. I don't think Naruto doesn't really interest me. But yeah, there's one called Ghost Hunt, and it's all based on like ghost hunters. It's so good. It's one of my favorite ones. I've watched it, and then there's one called Witch Hunter Robin, which was made in like 2005, and I've watched it like 4 or 5 times. Full season. There'll never be another season, and it's old, crappy anime, but I love it so much. I love the concept of it.
What was the one you were just talking about? Bleach?
Yeah,
No.
Bleach.
Yeah, what's it about?
So it's about so it's a spirit. It's based in like modern Japan. There's a young boy. He has this weird Ichigo, which means strawberry.
Because he has orange hair.
Yeah, and he has this weird. I can't remember the exact details, but he ends up having this connection with the spirit world, and like
He can see ghosts. He's
yeah.
one of those people that can see spirits.
And there's this thing called hollows, which are like spirits with like their I can't remember the exact details. It's been a long time since I watched it. Where like they have their core taken out, they become like these monstrous spirits. And then there's this society called the Soul Society, which are like a bunch of like spirit samurais who deal with these hollows and protect the spirit world. So these guys are like the guardian between the reality and the spiritual world, because these hollows can interfere with the real world. So like,
okay.
Yeah. So it gets, but then it gets down to like this whole lore of like how Ichigo can see what's the go with his family, who's his dad, who's his mum, all these other characters.
I
like
haven't got that far, so.
Yeah, like because all these other characters used to be living people. They died, they became spirits, and now they're part of the Soul Society, and they've got all these abilities. They're powerful, like.
And they all have like these gigantic swords that like called Zanpakutos.
Yeah.
And each Soul Reaper has a different Zanpakuto with different abilities.
Mm.
And like Ichigo becomes a what do they call him? A substitute Soul Reaper, because he encounters Rukia, who's a Soul Reaper, fighting this Hollow. She gets attacked, so he wants to defend, so she can see his spiritual pressure, his energy. So she basically gives him her power to become a Soul Reaper. And so when she gives him his power, his power, he has a massive sword, which is like, that shouldn't happen. You know, he's got all these abilities that are like, how have you got all this power when you're only a human? Like, you know, so there's something there.
So it's kind of like Demon Slayer.
Not quite,
But very similar.
Very similar. Like, but like, yeah, and of course Ichigo's like, it turns out he has like a a trial of like challenge, which like he becomes like a hollow for a moment. He learns to control this hollow form, and he becomes like this weird mixed breed between this darkness and this. So like,
and there's like corrupt Soul Reapers that are, you know.
Yeah, it gets pretty it's actually really good storytelling. It's kind of like, but yeah, it goes for 600 episodes now. 600. Fucking heaps. Like I think we stopped around episode 200 because they stopped making it at some point. Then they restarted it again.
I can't remember. I don't even know what.
Because I got to the point where it was involved, like that guy who was like actually like manipulating the leaders of the Soul Society. That dude. It turns out he's like a super powerful like guy.
Oh, the one with like brown haired glasses.
Yeah.
That one. Yeah, I'm past that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got a lot of anime to watch.
Yeah, there's fucking heaps.
I was like Naruto, and then it's like
we still gotta watch
Inuyasha.
like 300 episodes. I was like One Piece is like 700 episodes. And
there's like a
Dragon Ball. It's like 500 episodes. I'm like, I've got a lot of time.
Don't watch One Piece. One Piece is a waste of your time.
Is it?
Oh, unless you're really into like, it's not really good storytelling.
It's alright, but like sometimes you'll probably just have to fast forward through a couple of episodes just to get to the point.
It's just a lot of filler.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, same thing with Bleach sometimes.
Yeah, Bleach had a lot of filler too. You just skip to the end. The end part.
Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood.
That's a good one too.
You need to watch that one.
I've heard about
Full Metal Alchemist, just Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, because Full Metal Alchemist was shit. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. So, same thing, same story, but better telling in Brotherhood.
Yeah. There's heaps we can offer you. Tell you what, I'll stop the podcast now.
Oh.
Because we've been going for like nearly 3 hours.
Oh shit, we haven't.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening. We'll continue on Anime Talk.
We'll continue on Anime Talk.
Thank you, bye. Bye.